make money on MMA? Let be. You want to know who to put it in your parlay? Let be. You want to know our Draftkings stay away? Let be. So, who has the Leslie Smith underdog pick? Who was the Mexican dude and the lesbian chick? Everybody say it me. Lesbo and The Bean. Who's that out there living their dream? Lesbo and The Bean. Who's that still smoking all the green? Lesbo and The Bean. Come on, y'all, let me hear you scream. Lesbo and The Bean. You wanna make money on MMA? Let be. You wanna know who to put in your parlay?
Welcome back, everybody, to the show. What a weekend of fights. What a week we have ahead of us. This is definitely one of the most active times for UFC, and dare I say, some people out there are saying that this is an oversaturated time of year right now, and there's so much going on with baseball, football, and all these other sports that it's taking away a bit, and that's why we're getting some of these lower rated cards. Other people are saying that it's just so many cards throughout the year that we need to pull it back to where we used to have like 3 cards a year, 7 cards a year. I remember that as a kid, like all VHS every once in a while. But
I'm almost glad I didn't watch UFC back then.
Yeah, it's too long of a far apart. I'm not complaining. I'm loving it, but we're hardcores here. And what a weekend. How did your Sao Paulo card end up turning out? How did your Sao Paulo evening
I would say fair. It turned out fair this week.
It was definitely a shocker. There was a couple that really did upset the night. I think there was a complete robbery early on in the night.
It's so weird how excited I was to talk about this card, but now as the other UFC gets closer, or UFC 217 gets closer, I cannot even. I'm like, what happened? Oh yeah, we're talking about Sao Paulo. Let's go back. No, let's talk about it. And
right,
there was so much that happened. There's so much about the weekend to talk about. It's just funny that how quickly my squirrel brain is 217.
And just so much that happened after this post card with Covington coming through with a win. He was the favorite. His wrestling really took over, never stayed on the ground, took Masvidal's advice, and really took the heel turn. He's been playing it up, but it's at an all-time high, and love him or hate him, he's making money the more you say his name. And now there's even fighters such as Ben Saunders specifically calling Covington out, saying ranks mean nothing. I'm going to submit you because he's talking about
Ben Saunders? Who cares? Why would Colby Covington talk all this shit, do all this to get finally some recognition to then fight Ben Saunders? No offense, Ben Saunders. Colby should be looking forward. I think him and Woodley is an interesting fight. This is how the UFC works these days.
Agreed, 100%.
And he has to sit down with a commission, like the niceness commission of the UFC, because of what do you think about what he said about Brazilians?
I wouldn't personally go that route, but I love that somebody else does, because I can watch them take all the heat and I just giggle on my computer as I'm watching all of the clips. I love his Cody's official statement, or Colby, that to all of the fans that spit at him and he was just going on a day of work, that all the filthy animals that treated him, hopefully his host didn't feel like he disrespected them. Somewhere along those lines. I'm misquoting it by far, but it was a backhanded type of apology where he still called all of the fans that were dirtbags.
Yeah, he's like, I had to have 2 securities outside. I went to work today. If you guys haven't looked it up, you can look up his report.
It's actually a great statement.
Yeah, and if anyone was in any country, it is what it is. There's a ton of Brazilian fight fans now. For at least the rest of his career, they're going to tune in to watch him hopefully get beat in their head. So why not?
Do you think that in most states, if there was a Brazilian or another nationality that came in and was beating American fighters in their hometown, would they get that type of treatment? Security guards everywhere? Would they get spit on? Would they get trashed? No. I feel like there might be 1 or 2 bottles, but it's not going to be the entire crowd where Colby had the entire crowd, if even the main event, trying to fight him before the main event, which we called the main event 100% right. Didn't go as far as I thought it was gonna. Ended up being one round, and Lyoto Machida was night. It's just time for him to move along. But did you hear that he was trying to pick a fight with Colby as well, saying, "I'll fight you right now. You don't do that here in Brazil."
Oh, it's so stupid. It really is so stupid.
Colby's playing a character that has been played 100 times over.
We saw Matt Brown do it just recently.
We've seen everybody do it, not even in UFC.
And really, the whole entire... Can you imagine if they were in Ohio, like me and you, fighting in Ohio, and all of Ohio is screaming, "You're going to die. You're going to die. You're going to die." That is exactly what they're doing in Brazil.
Right.
Like, I can't even fathom it. So there's things that culturally are a little different on both sides of it, but it's for the love of the sport. It's all just makes things... It's shit-talking.
It is shit-talking, and with the "you're gonna die" chants and the other chants and the way that they support their country, I totally agree, but the way that they show disrespect for the other fighter in there, I'm just like, why? How are you surprised that somebody's pushing back? Everyone's supposed to just take your guys' bullshit when we come in and wreck Brazil. And a lot of Brazilian people go whoop my ass. But you don't act like that. I mean, you're civilized. You flip him the finger, you boo him, but you don't spit at him.
It's for the love of sport.
Yeah.
It's all for the love
you
of
boo
sport.
Him. That's
it's
about
just
it.
The way it's kind of... Yes, it's just for... It's this... Gladiators for what it is.
Agreed, exactly. Even if whatever
it is.
It's that he's out there, he's a second part of that fight. That fight doesn't happen if he's not in there.
Everyone's making a big deal out of it, but everyone's talking about 2 months ago. Was anyone saying Colby Covington? No, and we were just talking shit about his stupid Twitter and how he does
he's
stuff.
been a heel.
But his stupid Twitter is how he got the fight to begin with.
Yep.
He was smart to get the fight. He knows Damian Maia was. This is now looking at it. The smart thing about him. And this fight is he got the weakest version of Damian Maia from being too old with too many cuts too soon.
Damian Maia had a hell of a first round.
Did he, or does Colby just have a shitty stand-up game?
Which is something that in the future I will be sure, like, hey, he's got an elite wrestling game, but Colby Covington is not an elite striker. He was very overextended on many of his punches, where an elite striker is going to pivot around the corner and actually make you pay. Damian Maia just doesn't have the ability to make Colby pay for the times that he was out of position because he is a bit more advanced in age. But Colby didn't come out unbloodied. He had multiple stitches. Colby, he was in a battle. And Damian Maia, who threw 12 strikes in the 4 fights prior to this, maybe even prior to the 5-rounder he just had. But he had 4 or 5 fights where it was 12 strikes. So Damian Maia isn't in there to strike, and I think he put on a good showing. But again, he's probably on his way out. He could beat a lot of people, though, still. Colby Covington's up there.
Damian Maia should kind of play the Brazilian... He can just fill seats in Brazil now. He can just fight there. He can always take up-and-comers. He can always be on the main card. There's a couple of guys they could move right out. We don't need to see Bigfoot fight anymore in Brazil. So we don't need to see Lyoto Machida fight anymore. So why can't... what's his face just become that? Damian Maia just become that guy. The Brazilian old guy we watch fight every card.
Yeah, the sport's definitely moving quite along, and it's going to have quite a bit of narrative throughout our podcast, I feel like. Father Time, and eventually it catches up with all of us. So, back to the beginning of the night, we had Glome finish Cristiano Colombo. That was Colombo shouldn't be in the UFC, and Glome isn't going to have that easy of a fight next time around. He is athletic.
Let
He's
the hype train build
his...
on him so we can make money.
Agreed. But I do think that Glome has a lot of fun fights that are going to be competitive that he could still win because he has really good hips for such a big guy. And
his build, how you were just saying how much UFC is changing and how much it's moving along. 265 guys used to not be built like him.
Yeah, they can just run circles around.
He's like a 265er with cardio.
Yeah, at 22, exactly. So I'm actually really excited for Colombo, get out of here.
Get out of here.
It's time to move on. Sorry, sir. But I think you're 38, 39, something like that. And it's just time. Moving on to a split decision, if not a robbery. We had Diviacian Figueroa beating Jared Brooks in a controversial split decision. I thought Brooks won 3 rounds, if not 29-28.
I didn't understand it at all.
A lot of people said that Figueroa, again being the hometown favorite, was jumping into submissions and almost submitting Brooks. Almost horseshoe and hand grenades, people. We ain't playing that. We fighting. That submission either got it or didn't. And Jared Brooks wasn't in that much danger in those chokes.
A failed submission is like a failed punch.
Agreed. You don't score it. I would agree 100% with that. But there was a reason that we said, hey, on these decision fights, be careful. We got some home cooking happening with these judges, and this was
we knew better.
We knew better. We stay away from this a little bit, and I do think Jared Brooks actually had 50 DraftKings points compared to Figueroa's with a win 45 points, if that tells you anything. Mega takedowns. I think 3 or 4 takedowns in a couple rounds for Jared Brooks. It just unbelievable that was a split decision. Moving on to the next fight, we had Zaleski versus Max Griffin. This ended up being the fight of the night. This got the performance of the night. Both fighters had a back and forth hell of a round. Max Griffin needs to get his cardio up a little bit more. Zaleski was hurt a few times, but really came together. I really want to see both of these guys. I think Max Griffin is just in a hard division right now at 170. I don't think he should step away. I know he's got a couple win and losses, but that's a fun addition. Zaleski keeps on trucking. Gonna keep an eye on both of these fighters. I think they both won in this fight.
Division.
It's just how fun did this division all of a sudden become?
It used to be a dead division.
For a bit with T Wood just holding out decisions, but all of a sudden the 170 guys are clamoring for that belt, and T Wood's like, I want to fight GSP too, guys. I want to fight GSP.
I want to fight GSP and Bisping, whoever wins that.
Exactly.
I want to fight. It makes me furious.
Me too. It
makes me
so
furious.
Bad. It's so infuriating.
You don't get to make those calls because your fights don't draw shit.
Right, and it's not because of your race, homie.
Oh. Race.
Moving on to the next fight, we had Jared Gordon defeating Hakran Diaz. Jared Gordon has an incredible gas tank. Striking's coming along, and his wrestling, his pressure really came through. I think Gordon is a tough fight for anybody at the 155 division. Hakran is also slouching a little bit. He was really tired after a round and a half of that constant pressure. And Gordon, to anyone, if he does that, is going to be a tough fight. I'm not as big still on that hype train with Gordon. I think there's tougher fights out there for him, but can't wait to see him. Diaz, he's going to win a couple here and there, but I think he's hanging on to a contract barely.
He's hit the peak.
Yeah.
He's peaked.
Yeah. I think he's on the way down.
Noted.
So that's unfortunate. Moving on to the next fight, we had Antonio Cara de Zapato Carlos Jr. versus Jack Marshman. I had Marshman on a couple bouts, but ended up going with Jr. for the, I feel like, submission, if not decision. Switched it somewhere in there. And Jr. came out. Striking is really much more together. Marshman is a striker, and Jr. used his striking to use takedowns.
Jr.'s interesting in this division again all of a sudden.
Yeah, I agree. He's put it together. He's really come together as of late with his training camps and adjusted to MMA, where he was a more jiu-jitsu guy and screwed. Now he's more of a striker. So that's a fun getting to be a contender in there. Marshman, you're barely holding on to
Marshman should be fighting like Mickey Gall when he fights at 185 or something.
Yeah, he's close. He's hanging on to a contract. He might have one more fight just because he has exciting fights, but that's not a good way to go about it. Moving on to the next fight, we had a submission choke in the second round for Vicente Luque versus Nico Price. Luque is the guy who came through. He was probably the lowest DraftKings owned guy. A lot of people were on that Price train, and I have been on that Price train, but straight punches beat looping punches, and
I thought the stand-up was better for Price. I thought he got picked apart. Again.
I thought he was getting picked apart.
If you rewatch, I don't know if you.
I haven't rewatched it. Oh, okay. I watched it once.
In round one, the announcers, Daniel Cormier, leaned heavy on Luque. They were pointing out everything he did. Yes, I thought the leg kicks that you pointed out earlier, the leg kicks, crazy. That's something that I definitely paid attention to on the third time I watched it. But I watched the stand-up again. Easily punches, I would say Price got through every time and landed more. The thing I did like about Luque, he kept his hand so close to his face. He had a really good guard. But he didn't really land that many, but he landed like in the first round like 2 really great shots. Yeah. He knocked down Price, which happens to Price in a lot of his fights. He's regularly knocked down, which is
the higher it gets, the more likely that's going to happen. And then this happens where the submission came because of the hands. Price was hurt in an exchange.
Agree.
But it was all set up the leg kicks.
Once the second round came in, and I think that's partial to corner, too. It was like they completely figured out what was going on with Price altogether. Second round comes on, entirely Luque.
Yep.
Entirely. It was like any of the grasps of where Vincent Price. Where Price would eke his way. Anything that I felt like he had control over in round one, it was not there in round two at all.
Yeah.
And
his leg was torn apart, but Price doesn't check leg kicks as much as he should, and that happened. You could see all of a sudden Price's leg stuck to the ground because he wasn't even stopping any of those kicks, and they were welting up, but that set the rest of the fight
The first 3 minutes of the fight, Luque worked on the upper leg. Yeah. And then when they immediately come into that second round, only kick lower leg.
It was like
half. Wherever he was put, now he has that heavy leg like you were just talking about, stuck to the canvas, and he's kicking that.
Yep, and he can't move around and he can just pin it.
Very smart. Very smart.
Methodical. So, still though, I think Price has...
I like both guys so much. I wish they would have never...
It was a bit early. It's a bit early, but this is going to be one of those things when Luque goes further, Price is going to be like, hey, I only lost to a top contender. It's not going to look as bad the further these guys go in their career. Price is still going to have many good fights. I think he can beat a lot of fighters. Still money to be had on both of these guys.
He still had like 27 or 25.5 or something.
Yeah, it was a valiant effort for sure. He never gave up at all, even though he was starting to get beat pretty badly. Moving on to the next fight, we had a decision between John Lineker versus Chito Vera. Another valiant effort, but I think that pressure / those body shots to the head combinations just... If this would have been a 5-rounder, Chito was going to pull away with this fight, but in the 3-rounder, it was enough.
Doesn't mean anything, yeah. Lineker looked good.
Agreed.
It was just forward pressure, forward momentum. He was finding a home for every single one of his strikes. It was like there was a time that Chito looked like a punching bag.
Agreed.
He ended up with an okay amount of points to really let you fill your card with whoever you wanted to, but
Agreed.
It wasn't. You weren't going to get first place with him on your card.
Therefore, though, the DK price was so good on Chito Vera because he didn't get finished. Unlike Marshman, who ended up crapping me out with like 5 points, 6 points. Vera, had those even though he got beat the whole time. For the lowest guy on Draftkings, he was definitely a
It was not a great
play.
night of Draftkings, I'm going to be honest for me. I ended up, probably 10% down. It's not too awful.
I was like 10% up, so I barely...
Give me my money back! Give me my money back!
Yeah, I ended up... Before I went to bed, I thought the lines were going to close, and then I woke up and it added a couple more bucks into the time I went to sleep. So I don't know how they get if they go back and watch the fights and add or just over the night, but I don't know when they finally put that money in your account.
I'm glad for basketball this week, so I'm alive for my 217 UFC 217 card.
So, moving on, we had Thiago Santos finish Jack Hermanson in the first round.
This is where I was so wrong. I think this is what cost me this fight.
I had Hermanson in a lot. I thought he was really going to come through.
I feel like this was my worst pick of the night that cost me most on my DraftKings cards.
You ended up switching because I thought you had Santos at the land of last...
I would love to take credit for just what we aired, but I ended up switching at the last. I listened to Lesbo and The Bean, and I switched to Hermanson. So I had Hermanson KO round 2 by the time we went to.
This was a bad call. I mean, he couldn't keep up with the power of Santos. Santos is heavy-handed, and has really got his takedown defense under control. And Hermanson just couldn't take it. Could not take those heavy punches.
In Brazil,
Santos is a berserker. I mean, he let loose a 5-6 punch combination to finish that fight.
This is just it. When Santos fights in Brazil, he may or may not be juiced to the gills.
Because there was an unbelievable size advantage there in that fight. I had Hermanson on a lot, and this is why I didn't win, because everybody else I had really came through on my cards. Moving on, we had Francisco Trinaldo defeat Jim Miller in unanimous decision. I'm surprised this wasn't finished a couple times. Easy unanimous decision. Jim Miller, on your way out. We already talked our way through this one. Trinaldo, still going to be a high-level gatekeeper, but I don't think he makes a run for the title anytime soon. Just, you could see he out-muscled and sized Jim Miller the entire fight. Didn't matter who was technically better. Trinaldo's going to do that to a lot of people in the division.
This is a plateau fight. Both guys aren't really going anywhere.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Both guys are going to fight more guys that are on the plateau.
Right, or coming up and making their names off of these type of fighters, unfortunately, at this point in their careers. Moving on to the next fight, we had Pedro Munoz defeating Rob Font via guillotine choke. This was set up by the strikes. I really didn't like how much Munoz got hit, but he does tend to do that in fights, but he never slowed him down one bit. I feel like he wobbled Font in an exchange and then jumped on that guillotine. One-arm guillotine, very rare, but Font was tapping on that roll when he rolled through on that. Did you happen to catch that fight?
I changed to Munoz by the end. I think I had Font on air. I changed to Munoz. So, give one, take one.
Because he saved my night. Munoz saved my night with 108.
Munoz at weigh-ins looked so good to me. That's why I switched. He looked so large, so well proportioned. His body fat looked in order. Everything looked right. And I thought Rob Font was a hype train. If I think Munoz would have been our Leslie Smith underdog pick after I listened to the show.
Yep.
I was sold on it a little more. Right. I think I would have gone with this, but we didn't pick one. It is what it is.
I totally agree. So moving on to the next fight, or how do you feel like Munoz Font goes? I feel like Font still has tons of good fights left in him, and so does Munoz. This is just gonna make Font better. I want to see
Munoz Fili.
Ooh, that's a great fight. That's a great fight.
I like to see.
That's a great
both off a win.
Wait, Feely's at 145, 150?
Is he? I thought he was.
No, I think he moved up already a few times.
I thought he was a 135er.
Who's Lobov fight? Lobov fights at 145.
I don't know.
Yeah.
He must though fight something.
Yeah, I think so. So
it was hard for him to make weight. I don't know. Who cares?
So that'd be a fun fight. That'd be a fun fight. So we already talked about Covington Maia. Ended up switching to Maia on my card, and Covington really used that wrestling in reverse and picked Damian Maia apart.
You were so right on this.
Yeah. What I didn't like, the reason that I switched, because I am going to explain we retweeted our last minute picks, and I switched to Maia because there was multiple interviews where Colby Covington kept saying, I can go to the ground with Damian Maia and use my wrestling on the ground to stop everything Damian Maia has to do. And that's the exact thing I didn't want him to do. So that's why I switched to Maia. I said, okay, he's going to do what Masvidal did and wear a backpack for 3 rounds. And he didn't. He just put that information, Colby Covington put that information out there to trick the other camp and me because he got me with that. I thought it was going to be a different game plan.
I did my show cards, and that's what saved my night because you were like, nope, you're not going to sell me on Maia. I'm sticking with Colby. So I picked a couple cards with Colby, which is the cards that saved my Draftkings arse in the evening. But it kind of sucked. I can't believe it. Colby should have been an underdog.
He should have been an underdog there. But apparently enough people are starting to realize what's going on with this fight game. Then we had the main event. Again, Lyoto Machida trying to fight Colby Covington after his post-fight interview.
I was 100% right on this fight.
Oh, really? What round did it go in? First round?
I had knockout round 1.
I had round 2, I think. I thought they were going to feel it out more.
2 minutes and 30 seconds of round 1.
Machida had a couple good shots in there, but I feel like we predicted it 100% right on the show that Brunson could eat those shots and land one of his own, and Machida wouldn't be able to.
If I did, so one of our fans out there should do a GIF of a dragon flying with Lyoto Machida's face on it, and then the Ice King or whatever, the White Knight from Game of Thrones should be Derek Brunson with that arrow right into the lake.
I saw a couple of those. I thought I saw those.
Oh, I did not. I saw.
Really?
I didn't see anything. I saw people putting up dragons. But
I thought I saw him throwing the spear at Derek Brunson's head and Machida's head as a dragon.
We're all one.
Yeah, it was exactly. It was a funny one. It was really what I'm surprised.
I thought I was so clever with that. I would have retweeted it from Lesbo and The Bean on Twitter. Also, and hey, you guys, before we get into it, I'm so excited. We're so stoked to be back and be talking this week about 217. And make sure you like and subscribe to everywhere you're listening to this.
On Facebook, YouTube, Twitter,
SoundCloud, Podbean, iTunes,
Libsyn,
YouTube.
All of it. And remember to subscribe. So thank you very much for that. We're definitely feeling our presence getting bigger because, hey, good picks are good picks. and they're going to get your name out
You
there.
know where our audience is getting big? Parlez-vous français? Je m'appelle LaTB.
Ooh. Ooh. I like it.
In France. So I want to give a little shout out to our French
connection
followers this week on Lesbo and The Bean. Speaking
of the verse, the MMA verse, what's some of the stuff that we want to talk about a little bit before we get into this card? We're going to diverge into fights because there's multiple storylines, but did you end up hearing Raquel Pennington had to drop her fight because of her leg pretty much shattering and almost being useless? She almost lost her leg in a severe hunting accident where a vehicle rolled over and pinched her leg.
Very bummed about it.
Right?
She was the next fight for Amanda Nunes that was exciting.
A fun fight, I agree. This, hopefully she gets full mobility of her leg. This may be a Bisping moment where everyone said, Bisping, you'll never fight again, you're going to lose your eye, and he's now won the championship and supposedly defended the belt.
Rocky Pennington will be back. Hopefully she's better than ever. One good thing about this whole entire thing is that there is a 145 division now in the UFC. Because sometimes when athletes come back from injury, they tend to be a little bigger.
I did already see that she was in the gym.
Already doing pull-ups, lifts, everything she can. Good for her.
Yeah, right?
I like Rocky Pennington a lot. She's made me a fan over the years. But yeah, Amanda Nunes called out Kat Zingano. Don't want to see that at all.
Nope.
Don't. Good try. Don't want to. But then what other fight does Amanda Nunes really have in her weak-ass division?
Even though we've been talking a lot of shit on her, I do think the Iron Lady is a fun fight.
The only fight I am interested really with Amanda Nunes is Chris Cyborg. Queen of Brazil fight.
Supposedly, though...
Cyborg with Holm.
But that's further away than they said last week, because I feel like we talked about it a bit, but I just heard as of late that, no, those negotiations are going worse than they thought. And one of them, if not both of them, want more money. And that division, unfortunately, doesn't sell as many seats to the hardcore as it does, not to the general population, so they aren't going to get as much money, I don't think. It's just really unfortunate. But that's the kind of bullshit that Cyborg's been doing for a while. And or people around Cyborg, with the Iron Lady also taking a step back because she just didn't want any of that at all.
Which was really silly.
Yeah.
Really silly. I mean, we watched Lena Landsberg fight again. We watched Leslie Smith fight again. We watched the other woman take that loss, like you were just saying before, about when you lose to somebody good, it's not necessarily a bad loss on your record.
Yeah, you agree. A lot of people will reference it and say, hey, remember, that was a dogfight.
Yeah.
But other than that, in the 170 division, as we were saying earlier, how fun of a division is that all of a sudden? And it's because the Darren Till Mike Perry's going on right now, which everyone is saying. And what I think for that fight that's happening right now is Perry is looking already at Till, and he's got pawns in front of him. And he's saying, I'm not overlooking pawns. But every interview I hear Mike Perry say is, Darren Till, you're overlooking Ponzinibbio right now, homie. And guess what? Pons isn't giving any interviews. He's just worried about Mike Perry.
I agree.
So that's just
I feel like everybody's overlooking Pons talking about Mike Perry. Yep. And I am not. Right now, I don't even have my card picked for that yet, but I got Ponzinibbio winning that fight.
Right
now. I just don't think... I think Mike Perry's a hype train. I dig his talk.
Agreed.
I feel similar about him that I do Colby Covington. I'm digging everything you're saying.
People are also saying Covington Perry now. Because and that's also what's happening. Mike Perry's also saying like, oh, but Covington too, and then supposedly Covington has said that Usman turned down the fight 3 times already with him, and Usman just came out and said, bullshit, I haven't gotten any contracts at all. That's a fucking hell of a fight. That's a hell of a fight right there.
Usman in that all day.
I would agree with that. I mean, that's a
I really don't know who
fight.
I have beating Usman right now in the 170.
That's a coin flip. Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman.
I don't think it's a coin. I feel like it's a easy finish for Kamaru Usman.
I'm liking it. I would love to see that fight. So that's some of the other talk.
But I think the smartest thing for T. Woods to do is take the fight with Colby. What would be the harm of you gaining some Brazilian fans, homie? Beat his ass. Go out there. Let him pressure forward you. He couldn't be in a stand-up fight with Damian Maia. T. Woods will have no problem with that. Colby doesn't have the strength on the ground. T. Woods is a crazy good wrestler. You know, I feel like it's kind of similar odds as the Rose JJ if you put T. Woods in there with Colby. But why not? Why not?
Agreed. Well, supposedly the narrative that Colby's everywhere. He's saying that he's been in the gym multiple times with T. Wood, and T. Wood didn't stop the fight. They were supposed to go 5 rounds, and Colby broke him in 3. And T. Wood was like, not today, guys, not today. With that kind of talk, it sets up a story, but guess what Colby's doing there? He's trying to talk his way into that championship bout, because what people don't understand sometimes with fighters is there is really bad days where they're like, I just had 4 days in a row of going with monsters. He flew in from Florida to fight today. He's ready to go. I'm about to peak to go into my rest cycle to get into my next peak for the fight. Like, there's a lot of other variables. It's not for the belt. Why kill yourself in practice?
As far as I
sometimes?
know, you're only working on takedown defense today. And I'm trying to friggin' stand up and punch with you because I don't know that your coach has told you no. Your job today is to not go to the mat. That's your only job today. I don't want to see you land a punch. I don't want to see you land an elbow.
That gym talk, though, is gym talk. It's not, because people just like John Jones and multiple other performers in there that in the gym at practice, Kevin Gastelum at practice doesn't look amazing, but most times he's in there, he beats the living daylights out of people because he knows how to perform in the ring. Instead of practice, we talk about practice.
They're not the same.
Talk about practice. Yeah.
It's called practice for a reason.
Exactly. It doesn't go on your check mark. And guess what? If your knee twisted and you don't want to talk about it and just be like, hey, I'm done for it, I'm not going to go 2 more rounds, you earned it. You're doing other stuff. So just people realize what Colby's doing here. Don't be quick to just be like, oh, he's some asshole dummy because he's playing you.
But this is the other. If Jorge Masvidal, and we're going to get into this fight later on, obviously, today. But if Jorge wins, we obviously want Gamebred versus T. Woods all day.
Right.
But if Wonderboy wins, please don't do that to me. Please just let Colby fight Woodley if Wonderboy wins.
I think Wonderboy has to win 2 fights to get that T. Wood fight.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I never want to see that again.
That's exactly why. Because everybody is in that boat. So he has to win 2, but Thompson versus Covington is a fun fight. That's a hell of a fun fight. I would watch that.
Yeah, but I just, if it's time-wise that T. Woods is going to take a fight, I don't mind him fighting Colby before, because then him and Gamebred can kind of heal on the same cycle. If Gamebred wins, I want Gamebred to fight T. Woods.
Mm-hmm.
If Woodley wins, just let Colby fight him. Who cares? If Colby ends up the champ, that's super fun for a storyline. And if T. Woods wins, hopefully you build an enormous Brazilian audience that tunes in to watch him fight so we can build his pay-per-view numbers. My thoughts on that.
I think that's a good point of view. Hopefully they just take the right route, and with the new company that's now got its foot in there, we're starting to see that all these talking fights and all this social media push, Ben Saunders may legitimately have the next fight with Colby Covington the way that the organization has been working as of late. Honestly.
Ugh. I don't even care about Ben Saunders.
I totally agree, but if to me...
Right now, Colby Covington's a shooting star, and Ben Saunders is totally a guy that isn't capable of stealing a star because he doesn't talk enough. So even if he wins, all you do is put out your shooting star. And Ben Saunders, way too dangerous of a guy to throw your shooting star against right now.
I agree 100%. I'm just saying, with a track record, if
what about this? Ben Saunders Usman.
Ooh, Usman's got that all day.
Usman beats everybody. Who does want to fight Usman?
Nobody. This is the fight that I really want to see. RDA Usman. That's the motherfucking fight right there.
RDA's fighting right now.
I know. That's why I can't worry about it. Lawler? I think it is Lawler.
I would like to see either of those guys versus Usman.
Yes, agreed. But guess what? They'd much rather fight each other than Usman.
I agree.
Exactly. So, any other fight talk?
Connor, did you watch any of the last Conor McGregor interview?
Where he apologized about using all of them. Well, that
too. Which makes me happy, because I talked shit on him last week, but he deserved the talking of the shit. But he apologized humbly, and I
didn't watch the apology.
For the whole gay community. Lesbo accepts the apology.
On behalf of the gay community, just so you know, gay community, you don't have a choice.
You know.
Just so you know. I didn't watch the apology. What did he... Because it didn't pertain to me. So I was like...
He was just... I wasn't saying the slur at all to be disgraceful to the LGBT community. I wasn't meaning it that way at all. Pretty much. You know, what we kind of knew, but it's like, all right, tighten it up.
You needed to say it, where most people
Tighten
are
it
just
up.
like, you know what I say, and they write it somewhere, where he came out on camera and gave an interview specifically addressing why everybody was mad with him. And I think
But
he
it's
won
kinda
a lot of fans
smart,
back.
And it makes me wonder if he did it all on purpose, because now he had a reason to be on all these shows apologizing, and guess what else happened the same day? Dakana McGregor movie was released. So the same day. So is this guy a master marketer?
I'm sure, because I don't keep up with the LGTB community. I'm sure there was a boycott within some organizations where they were going to boycott his movie. I'm sure there was.
I don't even care about the boycott, just the fact that now everyone looked it up. There's probably so many people that never even knew it happened, because how many people watched backstage footage of a UFC fight after Andre Fili lowball?
It was publicized immediately, though. I was
for
reading that on
our community, for the MMA community.
True.
Maybe even for...
I saw TMZ, though, wrote about it in the sports section about Conor.
They could about Conor.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter. He can have toilet paper stuck on his shoe, and it's going to be headline news for most media outlets right now. I feel like he's really just what we got, and it's really... It's so frustrating. Why don't you fight? But he did talk about Ferg. My boy Ferg's going to have the next shot. He was saying that.
He not only talked about Tony Ferguson and released all that stuff about Tony Ferguson. When I watched the interview, which would actually happen like 2 days, the long form interview that he did sitting on I think it was a boxing ring with a girl in Scotland, in Glasgow, Scotland. It was a long form interview, and he said, I want to see what happens tonight. It'll be where the energy goes, blah blah blah. So it was right before Tony fought Kevin Lee. And in that interview, and I was like, shut the fuck up. The Bean said this. He goes, there's even a guy, his name's Gachi, or I don't even know how to say his name, but who knows? That could be a good fight. He's fighting Eddie Alvarez. Like, exactly what you said. Like,
Gaethje's gonna have the next fight.
Name. He dropped the name, even though it was before Tony Lee.
Even
though it was before the Tony Lee, I was like, shit. I heard it. Like, maybe the Bean's onto something. He said that shit forever ago. That's the easiest fight for him to prove
and
himself.
And he has the biggest amount of recognition out there by being on the Ultimate Fighter show. They just could sell such an easy narrative. And it's a fight that he could win. Guess who's an easier fight than fucking...
way easier than Tony Ferguson.
Gaethje, someone who's willing to strike out there and like, whatever, I'm going to die by the sword one day. Like, I'm going to go out on my shield. I know that. Like, Gaethje openly talked about that.
But if Conor is the kind of martial artist he wants his legacy to be, which I really believe he is, I think he'll want to take the fight with Tony, unify it.
I agree, because it does legitimize his career that much more. He's made me a believer.
And he can leave the Nate fight off for... Still. Because I think if he ever does the Khabib-Russia talk, Khabib has to make weight twice for 2 fights before Conor can even get into those talks.
Did we even talk about, though, the Khabib situation that recently happened with...
No, let's get into it.
So, Edson Barboza signed on the dotted line. So did Khabib. Oh my, that's striking versus wrestling 101. Oh my gosh, that's an exciting motherfucking fight right now.
It makes me so... I like Edson. I want Edson in that fight so bad. I can't even believe Khabib's going to make it. I'm just so disappointed in him. And I think before he gets that huge main event, big money Conor fight, which I do think can happen 1.5 years, 2 years from now in Russia, crazy pay-per-view. We can do they can sell the flags. They can have Khal Drago. It can be crazy. I think all that stuff's awesome, but I think to do that, Khabib has to make weight twice and get us all on the same train again. Otherwise, move up to 170, in my opinion. Edson Barboza, little dark horse. He beats Khabib. All of a sudden, he has so much momentum behind him. Like an incredible amount of momentum. No one's even talking about this guy, and he is amazing.
Scary motherfucker.
Scary, frightening.
Scary.
Easily, I would say triple the last Michael Johnson to me. It's the most dangerous fight Khabib's ever had.
I would agree, and it's a physically 3 times stronger of an opponent than Michael Johnson.
I agree.
Edson Barboza is a 185er. With no body fat on him that cuts the fucking 155. Edson Barboza is humongous in there. And his cardio has really come together.
What's his What would you say his weakest area, though, is?
Definitely the ground and
Right?
getting taken down. But
Right?
it's gotten so much better over the years. Edson Barbosa has worked on his wrestling. It's a very... That's what... I mean, Dariush, who is a sound wrestler as well, was having tough time taking down Edson Barbosa. He was able to do it. Barbosa got back up on Dariush as an elite ground fighter as well. I think Edson Barbosa is really being understated on how good he's been able to get back to his feet. Then again, Khabib has such a unique grappling style that those get-ups don't happen to come. Actually, they do. Khabib beat Abel Trujillo, who's a lot like Edson Barbosa. He's the beta version of an Edson. I'd say not as good of a striker, but a lot of power. Same way Trujillo and Khabib broke the record for most takedowns in a fight ever. Khabib got 26 takedowns in that fight.
Holy hell.
That means Trujillo, with also wrestling experience, got up 26 times. That wasn't somebody who stayed on the ground for fucking whatever. Trujillo got to his feet. What has to happen, though, is if he gets to his feet, Edson Barbosa has to break the hands and get away. So stylistically, that's just, god damn, that's a fun fight. I cannot wait. That's some of elite matchmaking right there. That's a lot like the card we got coming up.
Thank you, UFC. Hopefully we actually get to see it. Khabib.
No tiramisu, hopefully. See, you got a little tiramisu on the outside over there.
Maybe it's a little homemade raspberry sorbet.
Jesus Christ. We're turning this also Lesbo and The Bean.
I know it's going to be a long show. I'm adding calories.
Yeah. What is that? Tackling fuel. Talking fuel.
But about that, Khabib, don't want to see it yet. Don't bring it up. The Nate fight, that is Conor's version. That's his retirement fight. He can save that. He can put that in his back pocket. Easy $100 million for him. That's easily where he gets to own 3% of the UFC in Dublin, Ireland, part of the gate. What are the thoughts of McGregor Entertainment being involved with the UFC one day? Do you think you'll see it?
100%. He's doing the Triple H WWE move where he's going to be a wrestler or a fighter and he has such a draw and presence that they're going to say, Conor's going to give the UFC an ultimatum. And watch, this is going to happen. He's going to say, if you guys want me to keep fighting, I need stock. He's already asked for it, but he's going to have enough of a following to say, no, it's not anymore. You're giving me shares. Like, we're in this, and hey, you're giving me a co-promoter fucking... When Dana starts to step away, Conor's going to move in. I guarantee it.
I don't think it's going to be that he asks. It's going to be because they can't afford to pay him.
Oh, so that's how they're going
to give him percentage shares. And I do think he is good enough promotion that if Dana does want to retire, who can you think is a better hype man than Conor next?
If he can step away and get into that promotion role, but we're in such the UFC it's now getting into its preteen stage. It's like 8 or 9 years old in the world of sports, if not still diaper times. Yeah, because we got hundreds of years of MMA left, right? Unless a catastrophic event comes and we clear it up.
This is the future.
It is the future.
It's pretty much because even if we have to fight if everyone has to fight to get by on the daily, we will still find ways to watch the best fighters fight.
So with the future and how it's affecting our real life, back when we were children, I remember learning wrestling and being able to win a couple little skirmishes in with other kids because I was able to take them down. Never really any punches thrown. But I'd seen a couple of kids fight as well where there was punches thrown. Very looping, very sloppy the more I remember it. And they were good times when I remember being like, ooh, this is a fun watching people fight. So I just saw a video of 2 high schoolers. Everyone's in the parking lot like always. Everyone has their cell phones. And these 2 kids are throwing leg kicks, straights, feinting, setting up traps on each other, and neither one of them went to the ground. One of them ate 3 or 4 shots in a head kick and put his hand up. They both slap hands, shook, got into their cars and drove off. It was unfucking believable. These are high school kids. That's what's happening now. These street fights, I've seen other bully situations where it's like a little pipsqueak's getting beat on by a bigger kid. All of a sudden he fucking kicks the dude in the head and armbars him. Have you seen that one that's gone around, like teacher kids jiu-jitsu or an MMA?
No.
Yeah, so it's different out there. There's a lot of Brazilian jiu-jitsu classes going on nowadays. It's affecting
I can't
real
wait till we
life.
have the studio set up so you can pull it up and I can watch it.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely a good,
And then if you're
fun
following
watch.
us on YouTube at Lesbo and The Bean, you'd be able to watch it too.
Ooh. So.
Speaking of, it's November 1st. Yesterday was Halloween. Did you partake in any Halloween festivities?
Nope, I worked. I didn't know nothing. I had something planned over the weekend, but here in Florida we got a tropical system that moved through, and it was going to be an outdoor party, so unfortunately decided to just watch the fights in in my warm, cozy house.
What was the dumbest costume you've ever been in your life?
I would say it's a classic, but the easiest, simplest one was just zombie anything. Not that it's dumb, but it was just so easy. It was me, shredded up clothes, throw blood on me. But I mean, maybe as a kid I was like a guy with a mask, a little truck guy with a mask.
My mom tried to be, she was not a very, homemaker wasn't her thing. And I wanted to be a California raisin. So she was like, I'm going to make you a costume, a California raisin costume. I was so excited for this costume. It felt like months that I waited for it.
Did you want a saxophone, a trumpet? What did you want how did you want to tie it in your little kid head?
I just sell it myself with little white gloves.
Yep.
California raisin,
for
little dance
our
action.
overseas fans, what happens in these commercials if they're not familiar? Because it's specifically I think a stateside thing where it's claymation raisins.
They kind of look like the Temptations or the Four Tops or one of the 50s groups, and they're dancing and they're like, sugar pie, honey bunch, you know that I love you. But they're raisins. Anyways, I wanted to be one of these so bad, so my mom made me this costume, and maybe I knew it was bad when I was putting it on, but I was so excited, and it didn't fit right. I had to walk kind of hunched over because I was a little tall, and it started to shred as the night went on, and really, people said to me, what are you supposed to be, a turd?
That's what I would think.
It was a nightmare. It was really, I couldn't throw. I remember all the fun games at the Harvest Festival. I couldn't use my arms all the way because only my front two little hands could come out like T-Rex. So I had to throw.
And you rip your costume every time you throw
Yeah, by the end of the night, it's barely hanging off. Half a titty's hanging out. I'm in the 5th grade. It ruins my life. Anyways, thanks, Mom. Shout out to Miss Patty.
I've been a vampire in my life where it was just the white face and the black eyes with the shitty, horrible teeth that cut the living shit out of your gums.
People think you're being racist going in white face.
Not even a cape. Just regular clothes. White whole face, black eyes. I already got a widow's peak, but those horrible teeth, they'd be like, oh, you got blood in those and everything to make it look cool.
You're
I'm like, no,
my gums
those are my gums. These things ruined my mouth. Couldn't even enjoy my sour candy.
You got this the whole night.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
So, moving on.
Little Halloween. Walk down memory line.
To the breakdown lane.
Wait, I have to ask you a couple questions.
Oh, shit.
Have you heard anything about John Jones?
I saw him striking a little bit, but don't care right now.
Me either. I don't care anymore. I'm over it. It's almost the same as
170 is a fun division. 205 is getting there.
Yeah,
Heavyweight's getting there.
Anyways,
new additions.
We won't even talk about it. Yep. Iaquinta fight. Iaquinta canceled.
Who fell out? Iaquinta got...
he did.
And then Charles Oliveira is taking over for...
Yeah. Charles Oliveira versus Paul Felder.
Interesting fight. Dangerous fight. Oliveira quits a little bit, though. We all know that.
Okay, I guess that it wasn't even worth stopping it for. Let's move on to 217. Follow us on Twitter at Lesbo and The Bean. LesboandTheBean.com. Like and subscribe. And if you want to make money, come for a ride.
Ooh. Breakdown.
That was like some Eminem Trump rap shit.
I don't know if it was that politically charged. But,
I don't know if it was that good. It actually might have been better. There was times on his that I'm like, I was kind of embarrassed, watching one of my friends.
Oh, that was embarrassing. So, hopefully he wasn't in New York for that, because we are going to the state of New York, Madison Square Garden. 3 title fights into one of the best cards of the year. I think the first fight of the night is probably the only one that has the least amount of depth in it. Every other fight didn't even need to do tape study because I think there's only one debut fighter. So yeah, there was a bit of study, but it wasn't that hard to figure out. So we're starting off the night with Zahabi versus Ricardo Ramos. I don't want to butcher Zahabi's first name. Ayman Zahabi. This is Faraz Zahabi out of TriStar's little brother.
Ayman.
Oh,
Ayman, yeah.
Ayman. So Ayman's debuted already coming out of the Quebec area, fighting with a teammate, George St. Pierre, as well, which I think this is going to play a big role later on in the evening because, like Sergio Pettis and Baby Pettis, when Baby Pettis got knocked out and finished, it affected the older brother because he was like, ooh, it's just not fun to see.
Or sometimes we get to see game plans like the night...
Lobov McGregor.
Exactly.
Yes, so this is a fight that really is going to tell you what's going to end up happening because the camp is going to have a whole camp ready, and we're going to see what happens. A good jab usually comes with the TriStar fighters. The 29-year-old has had a 7-0 career, coming in at 5'8" with a 68-inch reach at 135 pounds. He's a bit taller for the 135 division. Against Ramos, who's 10-1, has a debut win in the UFC against Tanaka in a decision. This Sao Paulo native is only 22 years old, coming in at 5'9" and having a 72-inch reach. He is going to have a 4-inch reach advantage on Zahabi. Ramos debuted against Tanaka, who has had 4 or 5 fights. He was an underdog. He ended up using his takedown defense really well to keep the fight standing and striking. His Muay Thai and pressure really took over the fight. He hurt Tanaka in the first round with a great left. I feel like Ramos is a southpaw and has constant pressure, was always moving forward in on Tanaka, and I believe even at a point in time, Herb Dean stopped the fight and ended up telling Tanaka that if he did not try to fight and just stop fighting, he was going to take a point. He was going to deduct a point for timidness, which I absolutely love.
It should happen more.
But I feel like what that is a testament to as well was that Tanaka didn't want any of Ramos anymore. Ramos was hurting him with strikes, and that caused him to really back off since that T. Wood Thompson kind of situation that ended up having. Zahabi also winning his debut in the UFC against Vieira, who Vieira was a Latin America standout, ended up taking like 3rd or 4th in the season out there, but has had a few fights, or I think only one fight, and that was a split decision. I really didn't like the gas tank for Zahabi. I think it was a debut, got to him a little bit. I've heard he's had a few injuries in the past as well. I don't remember if it was too short a notice, but the game plan's always going to be there with TriStar. Zahabi has a good jab on the ground. He has good scrambles. He was pinned to the ground a few times, but did get up well. I'm not worried about that at all with Ramos. Ramos has garbage takedowns. He's a great stand-up fighter and a great submission slash off of his back. Where Ramos is going to have trouble with people is in that in-between wrestling. And I don't think Zahabi's going to do that. Zahabi's going to stay up and try to win a technical battle. This is going to be a point fight. TriStar tends to do this type of stuff. Didn't really see much in the power of Zahabi as well. I think that I'm going to go with Ramos on this, a decision. If not, I can see a late finish. I like the power I saw with Ramos and his gas tank in his debut. Zahabi on tap is actually the favorite, but on the lines, Ramos, I think, is a minus 120 or something like that. I had it up earlier. Either way, I'm going with Ramos. I think he gets the job done here. What do you think? And Ramos...
I have to re-sign into my Draftkings too.
Having some technical difficulties.
No, that's just the way it works. When you just even click the screen, you have to re-sign in. Come on, Draftkings.
Yeah,
We're
Ramos
trying to do a show here.
is the favorite. I feel like he's been bet there because the opening line was for Zahabi. And it was actually, the opening line was Ramos minus 130. So I guess I'm seeing it the way a lot of other people do. Zahabi's a little deficient, and he has a low output with a bad gas tank. He beat a quality fighter. I think Vieira sticks around as well in the UFC, but he's very limited when he's limited to one strike combinations very quickly into his fights.
Tapology.com is for educated fight fans. It's not just the UFC.com pick site. It's a little different.
I think it's hardcores mainly.
Hardcores. We can both agree when you probably boil down hardcores, a lot of them live in Canada. So this would be fair to say that this could be skewed a little bit toward Canadian fighters' picks. Because I have Ramos' decision as well. I just think Zahabi's a little bit of a hype train. I am going to stay away from this everywhere. I'm not picking this anywhere. This is
stay away all day.
Stay away all day. That first fight of the night is there to ruin your night. It's there so you can look at first fight. Now you're just looking at a whole bunch of shit cards.
Yeah, that have a 45. Either way
if
on
you're
the
lucky.
fight.
Either way, yeah.
Either way, 45.
I see this going to decision. I have Ramos right now, and that could change. And if I change, really wouldn't know why. I really don't have a lot to go on. So I just don't like this all the way around. I'm going to have Ramos' decision right now. Stay away from it as far as I'm concerned.
Moving on to the next fight, we have Curtis Bayless at heavyweight fighting O.C. Olenek. And I feel like Olenek is really overperformed in his UFC career. He's a submission specialist with very limited striking, a lot of forward pressure. He is coming out of Moscow with a 55-10 record, known to be a submission ace. At 40 years old, though, that father time is starting to get there. It hasn't showed as of late. In his last few fights, he's actually kept hell of a pace on people, and he beat the likes of Travis Brown, which is iffy of a win, Victor Pesta as well, iffy of a win. And the loss he had was against Daniel Omielanchuk, who was also a ground guy who was able to stifle a lot of those sneaky submissions. Olenek has the only Ezekiel choke ever where he fell to his back and got it. I mean, this guy has tricky submissions, but a really good wrestler, that's not going to work on. I feel like Bayless, that's what we got with him. Olenek is being the 6'1 fighter to the 6'4 of Blades, I mean. Blades is coming off of a 7-1 record. He's coming out of that fighter. I think he won one of the... He was out of the RFA. His only loss in the UFC is to Ngannou early in his career, and that was a dogfight. It was actually a stoppage cut due to his eye swelling up to the size of a baseball. He was in it. Bayless' wrestling really takes over in a lot of fights. He's physically imposing. He's growing more and more into his body. Him being the 26-year-old fighter, he is much more explosive. His gas tank does tend to fall a little bit, but he's really got it together after that Ngannou fight. And there's another $1 to the bucket right there. Blades is coming off of a win in Daniel Omielanchuk, so they have a common fight there, and the wrestling overtook Omielanchuk in that fight. Blades can keep it standing because his takedowns are good enough, and I really like the tenacity of Olenek, but with Travis Brown and Pesta, he doesn't have to worry about the striking variety or power that Blades has. Blades lands a nasty uppercut, and he has good straight punches with a lot of power. I think that this goes into the second round because Olenek is a dogfight. He moves forward a lot, but he's not going to be able to take the punches like he usually did with most of those other fights. He's been overperforming as of late, and I think Blades is on his way up. Omielanchuk is going to be a gatekeeper because of his craftiness and his heart, but I think he steps away from the sport sooner than later. Blades, TKO round 2. What do you think happens here?
Whew. I don't see that the boa constrictor, Olenek. I just really like him. He comes out. Everybody underestimates what he's going to do. The Travis Brown fight, they stood and fought for a little bit, and it looked crazy because of how little Olenek is. I don't like Blades' cardio is really what it boils down to, and Olenek has no problem with cardio. He also has a ton of pressure, a decent chin. That ton of pressure is going to wear away Blades' cardio, and he's going to be a little too tired to throw the heavy punch. I do like Blades. I just don't know how his ground game is going to be against Olenek, and I think that's going to be the whole we see all night in a way. I think we're going to see a ground versus striker all night. weave its way through this. And so this time I'm going to go with Oleinik's ground game. I like the Russian fighter here. I'm going to have submission round 3 when that cardio and strength wear off.
And I do think Blades is the underdog on DK, but the favorite on best fight odds, or the odds right now. Who is the favorite on there? Is Oleinik going to be one of the keep out? I just see it going the other way. Maybe stay away from this one, or put either fighter on a card.
Let me see.
Mix it up with either one of these fighters, because we both have finishes.
Yeah, Blades right now is 8,000 on DK.
Yeah.
And Oleinik's 8,200. So
it's a coin.
Yeah, we both have finishes. So for the price of a finish, they're both decent fights. They're both decent prices either way.
Right. And
Blades, I don't know how I feel about it yet. We'll see how there's so many more exciting fights on this, and so many more people that earned my confidence that I don't know.
Minus 375 favorite for Curtis.
You know
Blades.
what? I'll probably have both on a card or two.
That's what I was thinking. Split them up because they both are going to finish. This fight's not going to go to decision on either of our eyes. Maybe the under is a bet there, but actually minus 375 favorite for Blades on the betting odds right now. People have been coming in heavy on Blades. He opened up earlier as a minus 300, and it's just kept increasing. So, wow, big underdog you got here. I see the avenues that you're saying. I think you have very valid points.
He's kind of like a Dan Kelly in ways.
I
That's
agree.
how I feel about Oleinik.
I agree 100%. I think Blades is, though, making bigger strides, where Oleinik, we know what we're getting with Oleinik.
True.
Fun fight. Moving on to a debut, we are going to the light heavyweight division. We have Michael Oleanumshuk debuting over Ian Cutelaba. Cutelaba is one of my favorite heels-ish that really believes he came out to Cannoneers in the Hulk.
He's not a heel, he's a hero.
He is a hero.
The Hulk's he's a healero.
He's win one, lose one, win one, lose one in the UFC. I've been spotty with him. Definitely picked him against Frankenstein just because I dislike Frankenstein so much and have made so much money fading him. But with the debuting Polish fighter coming 12-2 out of Poland, hey, these guys out of Poland have shown that the competition is somewhat of caliber and they're ready for a lot of their fights. They seem to really grow, though, after their debuts. The 22-year-old fighter coming in at 6 foot is coming out of GKS MMA. I don't really know much about it, but we know what we've definitely got with Cutelaba coming in at 6'1" with a 75-inch reach. Cutelaba at 23 years old is only a year older. Definitely the fight experience goes to Cutelaba. Striking a little bit more rudimentary, and we've seen Cutelaba gas. That's why he lost a couple of his fights, is his gas tank just wasn't there. But I've seen him get it better, and I think he understands after you gas that badly, you tend to try to do other things to get there. What I did see with the Hammers fights that I saw before was that they mainly stayed striking. He had okay takedown defense, and he had okay takedowns. Again, the quality of fighter isn't anywhere to the caliber of Cutelaba's. I'm going with the favorite here in Cutelaba. I just see a TKO round 1. He takes him down because Cutelaba has a good double leg, and that's what he's been doing of late, really driving through the takedowns, ground and pounding. And he, size-wise, I feel like the Hammer is weighed in at 205, but he's a 185er.
9,100 on Draftkings for Cutelaba. Do you put that on your cards or stay away?
I think it's a finish. I have TKO round 1. I just have, like I'm saying, the Hammer is a 185-pound fighter fighting at 205. Cutelaba cuts.
I do not like Cutelaba as much as everybody else.
Yeah.
He's spotty with me. He has zero cardio. Yep. That is the number one thing that you said in the whole thing. He lets it all go in the first round, and if you can survive the first, you can beat him, and he will never win a decision fight. That being said, you know how I feel about Polish fighters.
Right.
This is a huge underdog for me to say.
This is a huge, huge underdog.
And I got a KO for the Hummer. The Hummer versus the Hulk. I'm going to go with the Hummer here, and I think he finishes him purely. I think he gets him, hurts him in the third, gets him down, and grinds him out. I think we're going to see Oleanchika's stay away from the Hulk in round 1 and uses long Polish Muay Thai kicks to keep him at distance, wear him out a little.
A plus 405 underdog.
I know, it's really a crazy one.
Minus 110.
I'll put it on a few. The one thing I will say about this, I'm not going to put Kudalaba. I might have him on 1.
I agree.
I'm going to stay away from him.
I agree with what you're totally saying.
I just think he's such a sketchy fighter.
Guarantee.
And look at his wins are against guys that you would not put on anything. They're guys that shouldn't even be in the UFC anymore.
Frankenstein.
De Silva.
Cannonier he has to lose to.
He lost to Cannonier by a decision.
Working.
Jonathan Wilson, he won a decision. Shirkinov, now.
Shirkinov is a beast other than that one knockout. Other than that, Shirkinov is a...
You know what's something crazy? It smells like somebody has been smoking cigarettes into my mic.
Ew.
Isn't that grody?
That's disgusting.
Who's coming into the studio? Sneaking in and smoking cigarettes
right by the mic. Ooh.
Just coming in and doing a podcast.
We might have to have a conspiracy corner.
I know. We might have to start a whole nother channel.
Hopefully nobody, because that's terrifying, because it ain't me.
They just come in the middle of the night and smoke cigarettes into the mic. I wonder if they do MMA picks.
Maybe it's the Les Dog. Maybe it's the Les Dog having a cigarette, talking on the mic.
Mean old cigarettes. Smoking a mean cigarette, a little cowboy killer marble red. Yeah, it's a weird underdog, but I don't know if I just don't feel... I don't know why Kudalaba scares me so much. I like the character of him. I think he's good for the sport. I think he's great for the division. I just don't think he's managed his cardio yet to such an extreme that I feel like the De Silva fight was one of the... By the end, they couldn't even lift up their arms.
Yeah, either one of them. But he still got the finish.
They were just leaning on each other.
It's a good call. I am going to still go with the minus 510 favorite in Kudalaba right now. I see more avenues just of the finish for him in general. Moving on to the next fight, we have Mickey Gall versus Randy Brown. This is looking for a finalists. If there was a bracket of looking for a fighter, Mickey Gall's already finished a few of them. And Randy Brown has really come together as of late. He had a rough start, losing, I believe, his debut in the UFC when winning his debut and then losing his next fight. He lost to Matt Dwyer in a decision. Lost to Mike Graves, where has even Graves been as of late? Is he on a suspension for roids or something? But either way,
Graves.
Yeah, Mike Graves, the wrestler that won the show.
No, you know what? I think he is suspended maybe because didn't he hit his girlfriend or some shit?
Something like that. I think you're more on with that. So, but he was someone that was going to give people trouble on the ground. Randy Brown then getting a couple wins under his belt, and as of late losing a decision to Muhammad. Remember the name?
Remember the name, Belal Muhammad.
And Mickey Gall. So Randy Brown is coming in with a 9-2 record, being 27 years old, 6'3", against Mickey Gall, 25 years old to the 6'2", with a 74-inch reach. Randy Brown having a 78-inch reach. 4 inches goes to Randy Brown, where only an inch height advantage for Brown. Mickey Gall has talked about going to 155 before. Mickey Gall trains with Jim Miller, and he just had a fight this last weekend, is going up and down that Jersey scene. I feel like Mickey Gall has specifically called every single one of his fights, even this Randy Brown fight, because he specifically sees avenues of the fight that he can win. He's very intelligent in that avenue where he's picked beneficial fights for him. It makes a lot of sense. I think he's done that as well with this Randy Brown fight. Randy Brown has a mixed gas tank, has gotten so much better than his debut and first fights. His striking is, again, really, really come together, but I think, remember the name, Muhammad did show you how to beat Randy Brown. Push him up against the fence, take him down, and you can beat him on the ground, grappling-wise. Mickey Gall is a good grappler. We've seen it time and time again. I got Mickey Gall taking this... excuse me, into the second round and submitting Randy Brown. I'm going to have Mickey Gall on a few cards. Depends on the DraftKings price, but I feel like Mickey's the favorite here for a reason. What do you think goes on in this fight?
Agree. Mickey Gall is a hype train that he's created for himself. He's a young kid. He's smart about every single match that he's taken. He's smart about every single card he's placed himself on, including this one. I think this is really exciting. I hope he does something and he's planning something really smart for the mic afterwards, and
he probably is. With his track record, he is. This is actually a coin flip of a fight on the books. This is -110, -110. Randy Brown, Mickey Gall. This is a coin flip, as a coin flip gets. So interesting. On Tapology submission, 77% of Tap fanatics are thinking this one doesn't go.
I have
further.
submission round 2, and I think you can place Gall on a few of your cards. I don't think that Randy Brown is a pushover at all. In fact, I think it's Gall's hardest fight to date. I think his chin's going to be tested more
100%.
in this fight than we've ever seen, and this will be a fight to let me know if it's time for Mickey to make the strides. I will tell you, him at the 155 definitely
He's
looks
a monster.
a lot better to me than him in this Murderer's Row, even though he's an enormous kid.
Agreed.
Excited for this fight. Excited to put Gall on some of my Draftkings. I think even if he loses this fight, it's by decision. So, yeah, I don't know how expensive he is. I was trying to actually pull up the Draftkings on the computer right now to look at him.
There's Randy Brown can also just keep this striking standing and avoid the ground game, but that's where a lot of people seem to be seeing that avenue to win for Gall is he's notoriously taking everybody down. He does have good entries on his takedowns, and you can just see that he dominates people on the ground with his size and positionally being correct. He really has an okay ground game from what we've seen so late.
Okay, I got some scrolls. Let's see. Mickey Gall. Well, you might be able to get Mickey Gall for inexpensive on the Draftkings. 8-4 for Mickey Gall. Randy Brown, 70.
That seems about right. These DraftKings prices are right around what it should be, but they've had time to get this card together because it is a hell of a fight. So anything else on this fight that we got?
That's all I have to say.
All right. Moving on to the next fight.
That's all I have to say about that.
We have probably the fight that I am least excited for. OSP versus Corey Anderson. Corey Anderson's been challenged as of late in his nipple game with Baby Gast. Just throwing that out there.
The Bean, always on top of nipple game. That's the t-shirt. How's your nipple game?
Yeah,
that is the t-shirt.
That's a good one.
Lesbo and The Bean on the front, on the back. How's your nipple game, homie?
So, we have Corey Anderson coming off of the show, somewhat underperforming, 9-3 record, being 28 years old, using his wrestling to really get him as far as he's gotten. 6'3" with a 79-inch reach to Vincent St. Prue's 21-10 record coming out of Knoxville, 34-year-old fighter who's also 6'3", is going to actually have a 1-inch reach advantage coming in at 80 inches. We know what we're getting with both of these fighters. I don't really feel like, especially OSP, is going to change his game plan. We know that on the ground, if you put your arm around his neck, he's going to Von Flue choke you. He's had a very strategically lucky set of circumstances as of late, and I feel like the UFC machine has given him very winnable fights, and this is one of those winnable fights. Corey Anderson, again, underperformed in the UFC, losing a split decision in Shogun Hua's tenure. Shogun hasn't looked good in a long, long time. In a year, 5 months ago, Corey Anderson could not deal with it. Then coming off of a TKO win off of O'Connell, who's also barely hanging on a career, then losing to TKO 7 months ago to Jimmy Manuwa. That was a pretty devastating knockout, if I remember correctly. Corey Anderson stiffened up. If there's somebody who gets knocked out in this fight, for me, it would be Corey Anderson. We've just seen that chin tested by everybody he's fought in. His wrestling has worked, but I feel like he has good follow-through with his shots, but sometimes his setups aren't the best. Even though he's fundamentally sound, I just feel like he has a hard time transitioning from the strikes to the wrestling, and people catch him as well in that in-between space. OSP has okay takedown defense, incredibly explosive that first round, but we know OSP gasses. Every single one of his fights he's ever been in, he has gassed. That's likely to happen again here, but I don't think that Corey Anderson has a chin enough. I got OSP TKO round 1. I'm not putting OSP on much. This is still a very, very scary fight because I'm waiting for that floor to fall out on OSP. What do you think goes on in this fight?
OSP is the third most expensive fighter of the night, $9,000. A lot of his, the best thing that OSP has ever done to me is go to decision with John Jones. That being said, I was probably the only John Jones we've seen in the last 5 to 6, 7 years that wasn't
short notice replacement.
Roided to the tits.
True. True.
So he had a horrible body. He was all scrawny with the potato belly. John Jones does not look great that fight. OSP, just still not impressed with them. I'm an OSP hater.
Sorry.
Won't put him on a thing. He's too expensive on DraftKings. He's too unreliable in life.
That's probably the best
I'm
play.
picking Corey Anderson on this.
Wow.
Because I think American wrestling will be smart enough to stifle OSP's go-to. He doesn't like being hit so much. He wants to try to get that Von Flue choke. That's his Ronda Rousey move. That's his armbar. And it's too safe. Corey Anderson can't throw bombs. He took enough time off for me with a knockout, which a lot of the guys don't do. They fight too soon. He took the 7 months after his knockout. And I think that he is being undervalued here. I won't put him on anything, but I think his wrestling pretty much just wears OSP out in the first round and a half, and he takes over from there. I could even see OSP giving up to strikes and a technical knockout with ground and pound by Corey Anderson.
So that's another underdog.
I'm going with a crazy heavy underdog on this. I've thought about it over and over again. I want to see them both at weigh-ins to see how Corey Anderson looks, but right now I like him in this fight.
On DraftKings, it's an underdog, but the betting lines right now, you are actually not that big of an underdog with a minus 160 for Ovens and St. Preux to the plus 140 Corey Anderson. But I feel like with the picture going, I see exactly what you're saying, and it makes a lot of sense. Maybe a couple parlays, because a couple of those minus 110 are plus 140, plus 1 whatever, will really get up into that heavy-duty category for you. We're going to have a very, very fun fight
I call this fight, this is actually going to be the fight that's the changing of the guard fight. You're going to see Corey Anderson step up. He's still a young dude learning the ropes of the division. I think he steps into the OSP spot, and we see OSP kind of settle in. On the Neverending Story, where a Trey who's running through the gates, and they're like the two Spinks shooting the lasers at him. OSP will settle into his spot at being the guy in the middle gate as the laser
That's
shooter.
Where Corey Anderson is right now, too, to me, though. Isn't that,
I agree. Corey Anderson made it through the first laser shooter.
Yeah.
He's into the UFC. He's won a few fights. He's in there.
If this isn't a knockout for OSP in the first round, is the most boring fight of the night, by far.
Just too sweaty.
Just grinding,
dudes.
Just a Corey Anderson wrestling up against the fence.
OSP has such garbage cardio.
I
feel like he could give up if Corey Anderson grinds him out, and that's how I see it going. And I see it could be a Corey Anderson finish. I'll put Corey on a few. I will not put OSP on a card.
Ooh, I think there is.
It'll probably be the one that cost me first place because I'm such an OSP hater.
Or it gets you first place.
Sometimes I'm blinded. It was like the Colby Covington thing.
Sometimes
I'm blinded with my hate.
Agreed. That was a stupid.
When I look back at the Colby Covington Maya fight, I'm like, I knew it was too soon. Maya just fought. He's been in 2 grinding fights this year with the best. What am I thinking? I knew better. Anyway.
Moving on to the next fight, we're going back up to the heavyweights, and this is a rescheduled bout when we had one of the weirdest nights of all come about with all sorts of fights falling out. Mark Godbeer versus Walt Harris. Walt Harris recently fought Bernice Verdum. Luckily, there was minimal strikes, maybe 2 strikes thrown in that entire fight, and Verdum submitted Walt Harris. So both fighters. So that last loss that he has to Verdum as of 2 months ago, or a month ago, I don't think affected Harris that badly. I think Harris just kept his training camp going to get this Godbeer fight in. I had Walt Harris before for all the same reasons. I have him. I don't think Godbeer is UFC heavyweight material. Walt Harris is just getting better and better at 34 years old to the 33. Heavyweights do tend to peak a little bit later in their careers, right around this time frame compared to most other fighters in their early 30s. I got Walt Harris TKO round 1. I feel like I'm going to put Walt Harris on a bunch of cards. I don't know what he is on DK. I think he's in the 8'6", 8'7" range.
Walt Harris is 8'8".
That's heavy. That's
is
heavier
7'4".
Ooh, that's a little heavier than I think, because it's the heavyweight division. Anyone can get caught, and we have seen Harris get caught at times, but he is the more explosive, athletic, better camp. What do you think goes on in this fight?
I call this one of those, and I think I talked about it the last fight. I don't remember the fighter I was talking about, but they don't get to release the bullet. They need to, and that's why you see such an emotional thing, like somewhere a fight falls out, something happens, and even though the Walt Harris fight happened with Fabricio Verdum, he didn't get to release that fight. It was very quickly over. Like you were saying, there was no damage thrown. I think this is going to be that moment where we get to see him really come together. I like Walt Harris here. I do think Godbeer's a weird underdog, so I do think he makes it out of the first. But I do think he's going to get hurt enough, come out, that his corner's going to be talking, he's going to get his bell rung enough that he's just going to hear bwah, 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 and Walt Harris is going to get a good knee in the second round and just clobber him out. I think Walt Harris, I'm going to put him on a few, not everywhere. 8-8's a little too steep for me with a guy like Walt Harris.
Agreed.
If he were like 8-4, I'd be more likely to commit, but for 8-8, I'll speckle him out there. I think a round 2 finish is comfortable for him.
Walt Harris is a minus 345 favorite right now. So, big favorite.
That's too much for me, you guys.
I agree.
know that you say
in the heavyweight division.
I like Spitz more than you do, and the win over Spitz let me know that Godbeer could take a lot more damage than I thought, because he took a lot of damage in that fight, and I think it went to the end.
Yeah, it did. It did.
That isn't the same thing I can say for Walt Harris. I don't know how much damage he can take, but I just think his full skill set, and I think his wrestling is going to take over in this fight.
Moving on to the next fight, we have James Vick versus Joe Duffy. This is a hell of a fight. I am so excited for this fight.
Potential fight of the night.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I'm a big James Vick fan. Joseph Duffy, I think, has been on a big hype train, even though he's 16-2. He did lose a decision to Dustin Poirier, beating Mitch Clark and Renzo Madadi as of late. Really two very low-quality fighters compared to anybody James Vick's fought. James Vick coming in with an 11-1 record, only losing to Beneil Dariush in a TKO a year 4 months ago. James Vick has also come back and won 2 fights in a row to Abel Trujillo and also Polo Reyes in a TKO 5 months ago. James Vick is a great boxer, so is Joseph Duffy. Duffy, I believe, has a boxing career. Both of these guys are super long. Joseph Duffy usually towers over people at 155 pounds at 5'10" with a 73-inch reach, but James Vick is probably the tallest fighter that you will ever see at 155 pounds with a 6'3" height advantage to 60 or 76 inches, still having a
in college
3-inch.
He was known as White Shaquille.
For reals, is that are you?
I just made that up.
I was like, what is his nickname? The Texecutioner, James Vick. But he's definitely has a reach over everyone. It's true, but he has that Slender Man type of a frame. He towers over everybody, has good Muay Thai, straight punches, sneaky boxer, sets up traps on the ground. James Vick is a monster. He has this triangle guillotine that he slips his elbow in when people shoot. And Joseph Duffy has good takedowns, even out of the Cage Warrior scene. And his most notable win of all is Conor McGregor. So that's what he's made his career off of. And I think this is where the tire meets the road. And Joseph Duffy has another Poirier type of a bout where James Vick isn't going to go away anytime soon. James Vick doesn't fold under pressure very much. I don't feel like Duffy has the power as well. The more variety as well is with the striking of the kicks is Vick by a hair. I just feel like Duffy does stay in his boxing a little bit more. And on the ground, that's where Duffy's really made his name as well, with a lot of heel hooks and spinning stuff. But James Vick, even on the coming off of the UFC show, was always known as a ground fighter and is incredibly elusive. I feel like Vick's also got people like James Krause and multiple other people coming out of Tim Lloyd Irving camp. Great camp. I am going with Vick in this. I just feel like he can keep it standing if he wants to. He can go to the ground and win there, even though Duffy does have avenues of winning on the ground with his heel hook specifically. But Vic's been there with the best of them and held his own multiple times over. I'm going with Vic TKO round 2. I think Duffy goes for some of that ground stuff, and Vic is going to stop him and then land hammer fists and get on the ground finish, TKO ground and pound. James Vic, what do you think goes on here?
This is... The manifestation powers are really strong right now. I saw us picking Vic as our Leslie Smith underdog pick. I saw it like a week ago. I saw his picture. I was scrolling through something, and I think he's the Leslie Smith underdog pick. I like Vic. I think no one's paying attention to him right now. I think he stifles Duffy everywhere.
Right?
I think he's one of the most dangerous guys that he's a Kamaru Usman of the 155 to me.
People don't like James
No one's
Vic for that
talking
call.
about it.
Nobody
People are turning down fights with Vic, and he's an understated guy. Yep. He's not calling anyone out. He's super dangerous. He reminds me of Rory McDonald in a lot of ways. I just think he's sneaky little MFer till all of a sudden we're watching the fight of our lives and he's the new Red King. I love James Vic. I think you put him everywhere. He's 7-7.
Really,
on Draftkings.
So he's the underdog as well at the minus 170 or plus 172.
Joe Duffy is 8-5.
Almost 100 minus 195. Almost a 2-1 favorite to James Vic right now. I don't see that. There's no value anywhere in Duffy right there. I don't see what people are going to be saying. The ground game, the Magana. No. Madadi and who was the other guy that Duffy fought? Madadi and somebody else on their way out of the UFC. I would put James Vic over Dustin Poirier.
There's only so much energy that can go around, and Conor's supernova is too big for these guys to be getting the practice, the shine, the coaching, the expertise that they'd be getting at a lot of other camps right now, honestly. And we haven't seen, to me, part of it's age, but maybe part of it's just getting his bell rung over and over again as Conor McGregor's punching bag, but we've just seen Artem fall out. But maybe he shouldn't have been in the UFC anyway, and he might have gotten there only for Conor. Joe Duffy might have only gotten on this fight as far as we know, if not for Conor. I think this is a dangerous fight that Joe Duffy's taking. I think their camp has a weird way. We're going to see Conor McGregor in New York for this fight. He goes and sees his camp fight. We're going to see him there. It's going to be a show. Everyone's going to be around. And I don't think his guys perform that well under pressure, especially against guys that they think and they're filled up in their head that he's like, you're the best, you're going to beat him, blah, blah, blah. I don't think you can say that about a guy like Vic. I think Joe Duffy completely overlooks him, and I think he can get finished early. I think Vic is dangerous. You put him everywhere. 7-7?
I'm going to have him everywhere.
We're going to manifest. Somebody's going to win big off this Leslie Dogs pick, and we are going to UFC 220. Maybe someone will Patreon us and we'll go to UFC 220.
So, yeah. Enough said on that fight. It's definitely going to be a fun one. That's what is the FS1, I believe, main event. James Vic, Joseph Duffy, and beautiful, amazing fight to be the main event. That's going to bring in so many fans because it's going to be a dog fight regardless.
I'm so excited for that fight.
Right.
If that's a Fox main event all day.
Yeah, and that's a
little gift on the FS1 to walk you into.
And we start off our night with potential belt holder. We got Johnny Hendricks starting our pay-per-view off in Madison Square Garden versus Paulo Borrachina. And we got the Big Rig taking on Borrachina. Big Rig, we know what we're getting with him. Actually, he went to Winklejohn as of late. He's coming in being the shorter fighter at 5'9" to 6 foot of Borrachina, also being 34 to the 26-year-old. Borrachina is going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. This is 18-7 for Johnny Hendricks, and Borrachina is 10-0. On Tapology, Borrachina is a humongous favorite, and on the betting lines, I feel like Borrachina is also a minus 230 favorite. I don't see it. I just don't see it. Borrachina's fought as of late. Hendricks
is 7-3.
Aluwalu Bomboje, who is barely holding on to a career.
And Paulo
Aluwalu is in
Costa
there.
Borrachina's 8-9 on DraftKings.
And he beat McLennan 8-9 for Borrachina.
Yeah, and 7-3 for Johnny Hendricks on the DraftKings.
So Johnny Hendricks has lost as of late to Tim Boesch in a TKO, and we picked that right here at LaTB. We had Tim Boesch all day because of the size, and I think that that's what a lot of people are using. But the specific reason that Tim Boesch was dangerous to Johnny Hendricks is because Tim Boesch had the counter wrestling to be able to keep Hendricks off of the takedown. And with Borrachina, we haven't seen that tested enough. Not Hendricks style, not Hendricks. Borrachina swings with wonderful combinations, tons of power, straight punches down the line. Looks like a young Vito Belfort to me. Okay takedown defense, but again, the caliber of fighter that Borrachina's fighting to this date is still 3 steps lower than anybody Hendricks has fought in his last 5 fights. Hendricks has had a losing streak and had many weight issues. I believe he actually weighed in heavy for the Tim Boesch fight, did he not?
Yeah, I think he missed weight for 185.
So we got a hashtag hogwash. Hogwatch.
Hogwatch.
Yeah, hashtag hogwatch, and that's going to come up later because thanks to
I thought you said
Kick.
hogwash. This is hogwash.
This is hogwatch. We know that Johnny Hendricks has been eating at his own steakhouse, hence it's been going under. It's been a running theme for his last few fights. His camp hasn't came together even prior to that Tim Boesch fight. It was him training himself, having a lot of legal issues. He has since went to Winklejohn, who rejuvenates careers.
Do they though?
I think they do.
Who?
Diego Sanchez. And there's multiple other fighters that go to prolong their careers where they would keep rapidly decreasing. They can go and hold on there because they have a very
I'm always a hater and you're always a lover of the Winklejohn camp.
And they usually win in my eyes. What's their record? I feel like they're not a 500 camp. I feel like they're like 3-1. Like they usually win their fights.
No.
Holly going John Jones.
I know. Look at Holly's records, like 1 out of the last 5. And John Jones, he popped.
Everything's overturned, so it doesn't count.
John Jones popped for 4 of the last 5.
So is everybody else. So Johnny Hendricks, interested to see what Winklejohn does with him, but I think that the avenue of him winning in this fight is using his wrestling. His last only win out of his last 5 fights is Hector Lombard in the decision. But prior to that, he has a loss to Neil Magny, which I feel like we made money on. A decision to Gastelum as well, and Stephen Thompson head kick KO, but that was also a very lethargic Hendricks. I got a big underdog here. This is my underdog for the night. I see Borrachina being a huge favorite, and it's because he blitzes people in the first round. But I feel like Johnny Hendricks realized that this is his last time because I don't know if he can stay in much longer if he can't beat a Borrachina type of fighter. The KO is there for this young man. I think Hendricks takes those shots, takes it in a deep water, and wrestling grinds him out. If not, maybe a TKO finish. Round 3 might have Hendricks sprinkled in here and there. I don't think Borrachina's worth the 8-8, did you say?
Yes.
I feel like that's a little much for the proven.
8-9.
8-9 for just... I'm not going to have Borrachina on
for
some...
7-3.
I could see the finish coming, but I think that's just too much of a... The competition level is vastly different. What do you feel like goes on in this fight?
Johnny Hendricks gets clipped in his first takedown attempt, gets knocked out in round 1 by Borrachina.
Everybody seems to see that exact same thing happening. Tim Boesch showed you how to do it.
Johnny Hendricks, this is too desperate.
We got to see the weigh-in.
You got murked 4 months ago, and now you're going against the heavy-handed...
Is it 4 months ago?
Yes, sir.
Oh, shit. Okay, damn it. Damn it. Okay. It's
over. This is desperate.
I got Borrachina TKO round 1.
Round 1? Your boy spent so much time spending about dieting.
Damn it.
He's not... It's off for him. He needs a whole... If he went to John Wink's a year ago, if he moved the family down there, not just the camper 8 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, if he went down there a year ago and he changed his lifestyle and he was walking around now at a lean freaking 190 and he didn't have to worry about cutting weight and we were like, whoa, Johnny Hendricks is back and he just uses wrestling, I agree with you all day. This is a dangerous fight, but a Johnny Hendricks that got knocked out 4 months ago in a weight class he shouldn't be in, he's just lazy. That's fucked up to me.
Oh, I am
I think Bosch could get knocked out by Borrachina right now.
I still have, because Borrachina's huge. He's a dude that cuts from 205. Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point. It's such a good point.
Right now I got Borrachina
so you're changing my mind.
And I am going to have him on some cards.
And it's because that what we just made money on was that Cerrone fight, Darren Till. Exact same.
We're
this
watching
is why.
the guard change, and it hurts, but
we're also
true.
seeing fighters that are needing to fight because they're coming off of injuries, they're coming off of issues, and they want to get 5 fights in, but they're fighting monsters.
The way Borrachino looked in his last fight. I think his skill set is
so
amazing. Perfect fights. And just even the fights afterward, how dead on accurate the guy is. I just don't think Johnny can handle that kind of accuracy.
I am going to still say, though, I'm going to have Johnny Hendricks on a few, just because I can see the decision there for him if he gets past the first. Borrachina on a few, but I'm not going to put Borrachina on a lot because it's too much.
I will have Hendricks nowhere.
Woo! That's a fun way to start off the night right there. Fun way to start off the pay-per-view. Moving on to the next fight, we got Stephen Thompson coming in over my boy Jorge Gamebred Masvidal. Coming in, you know how we feel about him here at LaTB. He's a constant theme of our show because of his tenacity, his fight style. Kobe Covington, I feel like, is his number 2. We've been talking a lot about Kobe and the way he looks, and that's a lot in part to Jorge Masvidal. They've lived together for the last 5 years. They are not anymore. But what I really don't like as of late with Jorge Masvidal, what he's been saying is, me and Kobe might have to fight each other, or I'll move down to 155. Cody isn't having that option, and it's making me not like that Jorge Masvidal is coming out with overlooking potentially this fight that he has in front of him, because Stephen Thompson is a very elusive, very crafty fighter. We also know what we're getting with the 34-year-old South Carolina native, man who has multiple wins in a very flashy style. Spinning heel kick seems to be his favorite to take out a lot of people. Coming off of a loss to the T. Wood in some of the worst fights you'll see ever as of 7 months ago. Then a split decision draw prior to that to T. Wood. But prior to that, 13-2 record. Stephen Thompson has been an ace in the hole, really been able to finish and stifle a lot of people's game. Great takedown defense. Coming in at 6 foot for Stephen Thompson to the 5'11", Jorge, 32-year-old Masvidal. Stephen Thompson is more of a one-trick pony who, it's that karate in and out style, very elusive and throws angles, but if there's a way to beat him, T. Wood just showed you how to do that. Takedowns aren't there for Thompson, and Thompson's ground game is good, but against good wrestlers with people with fundamentals, hence Jorge Masvidal, he doesn't tend to catch a lot of those submissions. I feel like Jorge Masvidal can do exactly what T. Wood did, and if he's training with Kobe Covington, that wrestling is getting more and more on point, and Jorge Masvidal is always had crisp striking and very sneaky traps, high-level boxing, high-level Muay Thai and kicks. Jorge has a documentary coming out that he's teased a few times. If you happen to catch this, it goes over his whole career from fighting in the streets with Kimbo Slice to now, and they're waiting, I believe, for this fight to put the final product, but they already have the teaser out, and he's talked about it a bit. It looks like a wonderful show. His father's interview, his coach, he's really a lifelong martial artist and put together very, very classic wins. Jorge Masvidal is coming in off of a loss as well to Damian Maia in a split decision. Biggest Maia flaw, though, is that sometimes he fights to the potential of his opponents and lose split decisions. And he does go down. In most of his fights, he'll get hurt, Masvidal, but he has some of the best reactions and comes back together better than most people and wins decisions after that. I got Masvidal decision, sneaky fight. I might have to stay away from this depending on what the DK line is. I'm going with Gamebred, but this I don't know if it's going to be a higher score because I do have a decision going. What do you think goes down in this fight?
Something that impressed me about Gamebred, and it's something you talked about leading up to his last fight, was how much study he put in to beat Jorge, or to beat Damian Maia. And we actually got to see his game plan on Maia is what we saw the eventual unraveling, and Colby landed a lot more punches and had a lot more exciting fight in 3 rounds than Woodley did in 5. So whatever Gamebred's doing, whatever his mind's seeing lately in fights, I like. I believe he can do that with Stephen Thompson. I believe he was probably refreshed to train for something else than wear a book bag for 3 fights. I think he's looking forward to being inventive in this fight. I think he knows what to stay away from, as long as he doesn't get, that spinning heel kick?
Yep, that's it, right? And Stephen Thompson has a good straight left, where he chambers it really far back, that karate style, and hiya, right
I don't
into
see
it.
Stephen Thompson getting finished in 5 rounds. We saw in the first Woodley fight, we saw Wonderboy take a beating.
Yep.
He withstood some punches in the second one, but really in the first Woodley fight,
Yep.
I don't see Masvidal having that kind of power.
Agreed.
I do think he could get some kind of ground and pound on him eventually in the third, but I just don't see it being a finish. I'm hoping with reversals, and I'm hoping, like you are, he's just all over Stephen Thompson right from the beginning. I'm such a Masvidal fan. I can't go against him. I have him winning by decision here. I will have both guys peppered on cards.
I could see that because the scary
Masvidal is the heavy underdog in this fight.
He's a minus 155.
He's 7'6".
Or plus 155.
He's 7'6" on Draftkings versus Thompson's 8'6".
And I have Masvidal on more DK cards than not, because I do feel like he has more avenues. He has more avenues. The scary thing, like I was saying before, is that he fights some people's potentials, is that sometimes he's like, oh, you want to strike with me? Okay, we'll strike. And he'll lose a decision just trying to outstrike someone instead of using his wrestling. But
I think that's old school.
If Damian Maia can't submit you, Stephen Thompson isn't. So I really, really hope that Masvidal gets in there and gets some takedowns, because something that T. Wood showed as well is that you can take Thompson down. Thompson isn't, you have to blast through that explosiveness. Plus 155. Could it also be another Leslie Smith underdog? Do we have contenders this card? Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we have double contenders.
As much as
this is a
we're
scary
rider
fight, though.
Die Gamebred, yeah. I don't feel secure about this.
I'm more comfortable with the other Vic.
I think Vic.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm more comfortable with Vic winning that out by far. So anything else you got to sprinkle into this one?
That's it. Hashtag Team Gamebred. Hashtag all day day.
So moving on to the first title bout of the night, we have Thug Rose Namajunas versus Joanna Champion Violence Jędrzejczyk, a minus 600 favorite against the plus 450 115 pounder. We have Joanna being a long-time reigning champion, coming in and taking the belt from Carla Esparza. Great coming out of the American top team. We're going to have the height advantage for Joanna and the reach advantage by half an inch for Joanna at 65.5 inches, 5'6" to 5'5" Rose. The 30-year-old champion is defending her title multiple times over. She's really cleared out the division. I've wanted Rose to really be a contender, and I've wanted her to mature. She only has a 6-3 record. She's coming off of the show being a dark horse that made it really far. But if we know anything that is with Rose, is mentally she is vulnerable. And Joanna has been saying all of the right things to mentally get into Rose Namajunas' head. She has blatantly called Rose Namajunas mentally weak at standoffs, has gotten in her face and gotten into her Joanna witchy type of character. And I say that because I saw a Photoshop of Joanna being the Wicked Witch of the West. And it was such a good Photoshop for Halloween because it fits her, because she is, right before the fights, I mean, she gets into that bulldog mentality, and she's not afraid to put a fist in your face. She can back everything, and I think that Joanna plays the mental games as heavy as she plays everything else. She is not looking to lose that, and Rose is just getting better by separating herself from Pat Barry, because she's, as of late, said that, hey, her and Pat have realized that he gets into it. She's looked great coming off of a win against Michelle Waterson. What I'm hesitant in is Michelle Waterson is nowhere nearly the caliber of Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Nowhere near the caliber.
Near.
And The fight before that, Rose Namajunas lost a split decision to Carolina Kowalkiewicz.
A 3-round
split, and that was a grueling fight. And I feel like Joanna can emulate, if not rinse and repeat, what Carolina did. And the only way Rose gets this fight is in a flash submission, getting one of those flying armbars, flying triangles, and catching Joanna in the first round. Do I think that happens? No. I just feel like Joanna is prepared for all of that, because if we see it, she sees it. She's one of those astute, lifelong martial artists that studies everything. Jorge Masvidal also being a teammate. They're notoriously friends as well. Joanna actually credits a lot of Jorge Masvidal and has been watching for a long time, and it's really humbling to see her be like, you guys don't understand. My teammate over there. My teammate. I fucking love their interaction. And she understands. Together. She understands what of an underrated talent Jorge Masvidal
He is my
really
hero.
Is.
I always looked up to him. Now I train with him.
And it's the truth. And Joanna, I think a lot of people respect Joanna, where even Masvidal, Cody, Covington, all these ATT fighters, she's brought in stuff and taught, hey guys, this is how you throw a punch. And all that.
And her mindset.
Reciprocating. Yes.
Her mindset
Agreed.
is something that a lot of UFC fighters could look to emulate. How hardcore, strong,
and
how
emulates around the room.
100% a winner. You can feel her confidence. It's you know who it's eerily similar to, and this is why the guy is so dangerous to me, and it's something I don't think anybody else is tapping on, and it's Darren Till. He has this eerie belief in himself
he's been doing, yeah.
that I believe. I can feel his belief in himself, and it makes me instantly believe, like, oh, it's kind of the exact same thing I started to feel around Robert Whittaker. There's just certain people that you feel the bubble when it's around them. You didn't feel in you could honestly, even us as UFC fans, as much as I wanted to believe McGregor and all this, we didn't feel it for that fight. We didn't think he was gonna go out there and, school the best ever and show him the what's what of the whole thing.
Right.
It was an interesting moment, but I think sometimes you feel it, and Joanna just has that bubble around her of confidence that if she said this same exact stuff to Fabricio Verdum, you'd be like, shit, maybe Joanna will fuck him up.
Yeah. She's intimidating. She really is. She just, the whole 360, her life is fighting. Rose is freshly married, has a dog, has a life. She is going to get so much better after this fight, but I think that there's a 5-round finish. I think that Rose is going to just slowly get picked apart, and Joanna is a bit of a slow starter, but so is Rose. And I don't see just the striking being there. TKO round 5. I think ground and pound elbows. Elbows finally finish this fight. Rose is going to we've seen the quit in her. I think that's what's going to happen. What do you feel like this is going?
I think you can put Rose on 1 or 2 cards just because I do think you're playing the flash armbar angle, and right. I do see that being
pretty much the only option. If we see it
and we're guessing it, then Joanna sees it and guesses it. The only thing I'm scared about here at all with Joanna, and it's the same thing I felt about Amanda Nunes the second time her and Shevchenko were supposed to meet, that she fell out. Joanna looking big. She looking a little too big for me. That's a little too much confidence and a little too much weight to cut at 30. So I'm nervous about Joanna here. She cuts a lot of weight to me. She's not a natural
125.
She's not a natural 115er. She's a natural 125er, and she's going to be chasing DJ's record. I predict this is her hardest weight cut. I don't think she takes Rose lightly, but the problem is everybody else is trying to catch up to Joanna's game, and Joanna's taking it to new levels each time.
She has the mind to do that as well.
I like Rose. I don't think it's because she's mentally weak here. I just think I think Joanna wants a finish, and it just happens to be Rose that's in the line. This is too much too soon. It was only because Joanna had no one else left to fight. I think Rose is natural 115. I agree with Joanna. She will be champion one day, just not why Joanna is champion. I think you put Joanna everywhere when you can afford her. Mm-hmm. That is...
She's the favorite on DK. She's the most expensive fighter for a reason. She's one of the biggest favorites.
For a reason.
One of the biggest favorites.
She lays out
Yeah,
Easily,
massive output.
I would say probably the highest in the whole UFC.
Average, she has on DK one of the highest averages as far as points goes. But I think she is going to be a heavy owned fighter as well due to that. People have figured because there is so many underdogs that have chances on this card that a lot of people will play her. But
9-2. 9-2 for her.
After, though, I think
Rose is 7.
Rose Namajunas versus freaking Jessica Andrade, Claudia Gadelha. How many amazing fights does Rose have?
I love Rose. I think this is going to be the best lesson she ever has, that she makes an amazing amount of money
100%
to get taught.
She learns how to be a champion in this fight.
And I wouldn't be surprised. Rose is also a real martial artist, and Joanna is also a real martial artist. Their respect will show in the ring, and don't be surprised if you do not see in the next year to two Rose training with JJ somewhere, just because that's the kind of that she wants to be the best one day. She has that mentality. She's 25 years old. I still love Rose. I just think this is too much too soon against somebody who is a sponge for the game right now.
Agreed. So moving on to the co-main event.
To another main event.
Title belt. This is probably got the most heat on it out of every single one of the fights. This is, in my eyes, the fan favorite. This is what the fans are coming out for. And there's multiple fights that could be that fan favorite fight of the night. But I think that this just has everything with all the backstories, the changing of camps. This is probably the cattiest you're going to see a UFC fight ever be. The amount of gossip and hearsay and shit talking and back and forth.
What do you think about all of it?
So have you heard as of late Chris Holdsworth coming out and talking about the Joe Rogan, Cody Garbrandt?
If the story is true.
Which it is, because Chris Holdsworth came out himself and said, yes, I was getting up, I was on all fours, and TJ Dillashaw kneed me in the back of the head.
So hard it ended my career. Right?
Exactly. This fight, he says his career's not over, Chris Holdsworth. He's saying that
The Bean's brain just blew up all over the ceiling.
But there's just so much to talk about. There's so much. What Chris Holdsworth, so he came out and verified it and said he's going to come back eventually, but he still hasn't got his concussion stuff. And it started because TJ does do all the dirty shit that the Team Alpha guys have been saying is 100% true. And does TJ learn from this? Does TJ realize that it doesn't stay in the gym when you're being a dirtbag, and does it make him train differently now? There's multiple other fighters that have had this reputation that their careers have started to slip because they weren't able to get quality partners because nobody was willing to get paid to get hurt. Because regardless of you get paid, if you can't fight yourself in a month because your partner's just literally beating you when you don't need to, and having unfair shots just because your ego, it's just a recipe to limit your amount of training, quality training, because other quality fighters are going to be like, fuck that guy, I got to fight in a month in the UFC as well. Why am I going to be with someone who's might hurt me on the in-between when we're just bullshitting on the side of the mat? And he comes, because there's people that are in that state of mind that they will come up, and even you'll be bullshitting the night's over and you'll be on the mat asking someone else for help, and they'll come up and knee you or do something to you and be childish and be like, ha ha ha, I got you, where it's really like an ego fucking thing. Like, dudes are weird. And
well, it says one thing that Dillashaw is 5'7". That is not true.
Dillashaw he's 5'5".
If he's lucky in height with shoes with inches, if he's wearing Floyd Mayweather sneakers.
Garbrandt's also 5'7", though.
I believe Garbrandt's 5'7". I don't believe Dillashaw is.
3-inch reach or a 2.5-inch reach advantage for TJ Dillashaw as well.
I don't like the dick in the gym thing. I don't like it, but I also am not a champion, and sometimes I wonder if the same way I don't understand serial killers or Catholics, the same way I don't understand these concepts of like murder or worship is the exact same thing. I don't understand the concept maybe of being a champion in that mindset, and so I wonder if Dillashaw is a champion, and when guys are the best, like people say Dominic Cruz is like the most competitive guy
Yes,
in the room.
which that's the truth. There's truth behind that.
DJ might not, or Demetrius Johnson might not do it in his personal life, but I bet he's a bitch to play against in any of his video games.
Yeah.
I bet he's really competitive in that way, and that's probably how he gets it out. I mean, we see him in the ring, Joanna.
Right.
I wonder if it's the mindset of a champion, is that.
And I think you're making very, very valid points. And we're so deep in the gossip that I don't even know where I'm at, where we're talking about this fight. But you're, again, making very, very valid points where TJ Dillashaw did move to a camp that is solely TJ Dillashaw. Everybody is there for him. We're at Team Alpha Male. Everybody is there for the champ somewhat, but also to further their career. They really are a premium gym in the Southern California area that even puts on shows themselves.
Something that's been talked about all week, and I would like to get your opinion on it, is I think it's actually Colby Covington, part of his thing with the whole Brazilian fight and everything going on with American Top Team, and some of the fighters being like, I'm going to leave American Top Team, or some of the coaches that left 2 years ago that are like mixing it in with their like, this is despicable that Colby said this, right. And I left American Top Team, like all together. Is it a team sport?
No, it is not. It is just like wrestling, 100%. And there is team values that are associated where team points, but when you're in there on the mat, it is you versus the other person. That's it. I do understand that people around you do get you there, and even though in the team that I'm thinking of is much broader, because on a wrestling team, you're with your high school. American Top Team has cliques. It has American Top Team Boca Raton, American Top Team Coconut Creek, American Top Team Jacksonville, American Top Team Vero, American Top Team Illinois, New Jersey, California. American Top Team is a huge team, and not everybody there talks or sees each other. There's multiple fighters on the American Top Team that are like, oh, I don't know much about them. I know they're at a top team, but we're down here, and we're getting ready for a fight. So I think that it's really valid out of where Colby Covington's coming from. He's speaking honestly as to his experience.
My favorite thing that Colby said, I fight for American Top Team. I don't fight for the other fighters at American Top Team.
Exactly. And if I'm winning, we can do whatever. And him and Jorge Masvidal.
I'm not into any kind of hate, but I am into some kind of sportsmanship fun. It's the same like soccer games, how they all have flags, or football
I feel like
teams.
Colby, at the heel personification that he's done with this fight, he's done it the right way though, where he hasn't come after race, religion, sex. He hasn't done any of that. He's just been like, you guys treated me like a dirtbag. So with that, we're talking about Colby. That's a different
kind of dirtbag.
Yeah, it's a different kind of dirtbag.
Dillashaw's being accused of being.
Yeah, Dillashaw's being somebody who will limit your training partners.
Good for Colby. He squeezed him into a category just now like McGregor used to.
Yeah, everybody's talking. Everybody's talking. So with Garbrandt, though, he had the exact blueprint to beat Dominic Cruz. TJ Dillashaw is adapting and overcoming. He does have a team that's there for him, all dedicated to him. Ludwig did take Alpha Male's striking level to the next level when he was there for a few years. 100% proof, but him and Uriah Faber had some sort of beef that rolled over into many different avenues. To me, I know what I'm getting with an Alpha Male fighter every time I say typical Alpha Male, overhand right, good cardio, good wrestler. Team Elevation, they're getting other high-quality fighters.
Is that what you felt about Cody's last fight? You didn't think something way different with Dominic Cruz? Like he could be there coming?
I think that Cody is specifically way better to beat Dominic Cruz because, like we've been saying with so many other fighters, Dominic Cruz had that belt for so long. Cody's been waiting to fight him for 5 years already. He's known how to beat Cruz.
Since he's grown up, right. He's been watching.
TJ, they have fought in the mats before, and Cody has said he knocked him out, which that video came out, and in the back they showed TJ went down. He wasn't knocked out, but he was.
Oh, I
he
didn't
got
see
right
the
back
video.
up.
It was
I
released?
think I thought Evil Twin was telling me this, and I didn't see it, so I guess it's unsubstantiated because
I
think
haven't
I
seen
looked
the video
right.
yet.
But there's enough people now that Chris Holdsworth came out and said yes, he needed me in back of the head, and Holdsworth and multiple other people have said we have the video. It's more likely to be true, right? Like they're on more. They've said it. More things have come true than what TJ has said. TJ also said on the show, "No, man, I'm not going to leave the gym." And Connor was like, "Yeah, you're a fucking snake in the grass." And sure enough,
True.
on the track records, what's going on here. So, though with TJ, I do think that he is going to be the more innovative fighter out of the two, where Cody Garbrandt
What's
is
his
going to
most
be
dangerous weapon?
cardio and pressure. Cody Garbrandt, though, has heavy fucking handed. So you have to be very careful. He has really good wrestling, good hands. But I do think that he showed that he has a great... This is also... Fuck. There's so much to talk about.
Boom.
So who also... TJ, because he had a recent interview, he was saying... who was just saying that TJ was on juice? Did you hear that coming out? Was it Chris Holdsworth as well?
Maybe. Yeah.
Saying,
on Ariel.
Right. Saying, hey, well, yeah, we saw TJ's body change, and I've seen it, and I talked with Evil Twin about it, and we're like, yeah, we saw that. But the thing that is an idiot, Chris Holdsworth makes is an idiot, is don't think TJ wasn't the only one doing it while he was at Alpha Male's, jackasses. Chad Mendez popped as well. Other people have popped at that gym. You just implicate everybody by that. That's just something that you don't want to get out there. So we know the juice may be flowing on both sides because both of these guys may have practice in it. 5 rounds.
Cody's body doesn't look like juice.
Yeah, I agree. Where TJ's has before. He's put on levels of muscle that I'm like, damn, I didn't think he could go more. And he turns more Super Saiyan. More and more riblets and more veins. But, like I was saying, I think the innovation, the gas tank... I think there's going to be a grinding split decision of a fight, and I think we have a belt returning home with TJ being a former belt holder. And I got the underdog here. 135, TJ Dillashaw coming in for the win.
Dillashaw is 8-3 on Draftkings to Garbrandt 7-9. So Draftkings thinks the same way you think on this.
Woo!
I'm going the other way. And I
can see why.
At the beginning of the week, I was all Dillashaw. I do think, anyway you cut it, Dillashaw is worth a ton of points on DraftKings.
He's the underdog right now in the money line.
That being said, his most dangerous thing that I remember coming about in the Ludwig camp has been his kind of fifth punch or fifth, of his takedown. How it's just this gut shot, heavy, very fast takedown. That takedown, I was watching it on tapes. Right before he does it, 100% of the time, he puts his hand on his head.
Uh-huh.
So if I see this tell,
knees, baby.
My nitwit self sees this tell, I got to think every single person at Alpha Male has known this forever, and they've been trying to train it out of him for 1,000 years. Maybe Dwayne even gets after him for it, but once he's back into the muscle memory of it. Cody is one of the most accurate strikers. Watching all of his last fights,
great boxer.
And because of all his dancing in the Dominic Cruz fight, I forgot how technically perfect that fight was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he really only took maybe 2 shots that I'm like, whoa, that was a good shot from Dominic Cruz. Other than that, it was a really clean fight. All the baggage and the fibbing and the lying and the gossip and just the type of personality, kind of how everyone's saying Alpha Male's acting like a bitter ex-girlfriend. But I feel like, no, I used to think that, but now I look at it as Cody did it shady. He didn't go to them like, hi, I want to leave the camp. Thank you for everything out. Like, they didn't know anything about it. Conor McGregor's like, yeah, snake in the grass. You're going to leave the camp. Like, everybody else kind of knew about it. And not your teammates. Your teammates are kind of blindsided by this.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's a head case to me. I feel like I can see him as a little kid getting away with everything, just fibbing and lying. And he's bringing too much baggage to this. I think the press conferences are going to heat up over the next couple of days. And I think he's a hothead. And I think he falls off game plan because Cody gets him out of his game plan. And I did think the last fight going in that Cody, I was worried about him because it seemed like Dom turned him into a hothead.
Right.
But now I've seen Cody
He can
knows how
deal
to
with
play
it.
with that. He knows how to play with that heat.
Right.
I never see Dillashaw come across well when he plays with that heat, and he tries to be calm and relaxed, and I think that's a dangerous way to take it. I don't know. I'm not feeling Dillashaw here. Maybe it's his personality. I think Cody is the coming of alpha male. I like who he is as a person, which isn't anything to be said in fighting. I just think it is a mindset as well. I think this is going to be such a great fight. It's hard to pick. I think both guys will bring you a lot of points, and I do think it's going to go the distance. Cody has fine cardio, too. I could see him finishing Dillashaw.
I could pick this. Both guys on both on a DraftKings card because it is a 5-rounder and they both have the type of output, standing, striking, wrestling, reversals, all of it for 5 rounds they can do at a high pace.
I agree. For a main event card,
yep.
You could put them both on it. The reason I'm going with Garbrandt on this isn't a hometown advantage. I do think the fight's going to go to decision, and I think the dangerous thing for Dillashaw here, it might be a controversial decision, but UFC loves Garbrandt. He's the guy that they want to build around. Dillashaw just doesn't put asses in the seats, and that's what this business is coming down to. So the dangerous thing is going to be when it goes to decision that we got some sketchy Alameda Burr judges.
Yeah, hopefully that bitch ain't here, Brown count.
And Garbrandt wins this fight, but I think it's going to be an amazing fight. I got Garbrandt decision on this. I think either guy's going to be worth every cent. I think they're both cheap enough. Dillashaw's 8-3. Garbrandt 7-9. I think Dillashaw has a good enough chance to take Garbrandt's punches, and I think Garbrandt has good enough takedown defense to defend TJ's takedown. I think this is going to be such a great matchup.
This is such a great fight. So the
one more thing.
Yeah.
Dillashaw is the hardest fight that Cody has had to date, including way harder than Dom. I think this TJ beats Dominic Cruz all day.
Agreed with that. And that was a controversial split decision. Dom won.
I was going to say both these records should be green. Their last fight should be wins on both guys.
Minus 185 favorite, almost 2-1, Cody Garbrandt to the underdog plus 160. I got an under here. There's so many spread. This is such a great night of fights.
Great. I'm so excited about it.
Unbelievable. Unfortunately, we go to our last #hogwash. Thank you at leg kick TKO.
I'm more excited about this fight now that it's here.
It has a little bit more of a fan favorite appeal because they've been in it so long. But if you didn't see what #hogwash that was on Twitter, it was GSP weighing in when he got off the plane on an embedded. He looked every bit of 185 pounds, and it grew. I saw something move. He definitely gained a pound on the scale. Just saying. Just go back, and if you didn't see my research, there was high definition posted and everything. So it was one of those Conor McGregor moments.
Hey, GSP, put your dick away. That's why you're calling it the hog. GSP's hog.
Yeah. So Under Armour, get it together. Put a cup in there. Get a cock piece in there.
That's the armor in the under. Boom.
That's trademark LaTB. #LaTB. So we definitely know what we're getting with both of these fighters. Long-time reigning UFC alum, GSP coming off of a retirement, fighting an entire career at 170 pounds, moving a weight class up to fight by far the biggest fighter he's ever fought. Michael Bisping cutting from about 205 pounds, being the 6'3" fighter, 6'1" fighter to GSP's 5'11", and GSP's more like 5'8", 5'9". He ain't no 5'11". GSP's 36 to Michael Bisping's 38 years old. Bisping has been defending, if you can call them defending. They're more just like weird fights. A lot of people say he's ducking the current interim champion with this specific GSP fight. And GSP is on that 4-fight hiatus, or 4 year hiatus. size advantage really plays a role for me in this. GSP is getting called out in all the conferences. He's being made uncomfortable. The biggest tell that has come out for me, and even Michael Bisping said it himself, he said, your trainer, your number one head coach, who has been with you for every fight, has went out and said on the radio, on the podcast, that he's not with your camp because he doesn't believe you can win this fight, and he doesn't think you should come back because you look slow, you don't have the twitch, you don't have the fire in your eye, and you're fighting a much bigger fighter. And Michael Bisping is 100% right, because that's what's happening. One of GSP's longest coaches is no longer in that corner because of everything. 4 years off, not fighting with the best, even if you're in there every once in a while, it's just, we saw, I think, the best years out of GSP. The time off isn't going to help him. I think he's going to have ring rust. I feel like Bisping being such a big fighter, he's going to walk in back at like 195, 200 pounds. GSP's going to stay at 185 pounds because that's what he weighs right now. And this is going to be a death by 1,000 cuts. Those takedowns aren't going to come in the first round. Second round, they're going to be even slower. Third round, Bisping's takedown defense has been proven multiple times over. I don't think GSP is able to put up with the pitter-patter. Bisping hasn't had the most power ever, but he has finished multiple people, and I think it's, again, death by 1,000 cuts. Michael Bisping has a TKO round 3. GSP steps away for good, and Bisping then fights potentially Whitaker if Whitaker comes back in time. How do you feel this one goes down?
I'm going to get a lot of hate mail for this. So I'm going to have bags of hate mail, like Santa Claus of hate mail. Michael Bisping is not ducking Whitaker at all. Whitaker is injured and out of play for the game and has the interim belt right now. Luke Rockhold just came back, just fought a fight after a long hiatus from injury himself, and now he's back. As far as the game's concerned, GSP picked Michael Bisping. Michael Bisping didn't pick GSP, so it'd be like if they come to you and they're like, hey, will you fight this littler guy for way more money than this Australian crazy monster is going to bring you? Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure, I'm going to take that fight all day. I don't think GSP has any idea what he's getting into the ring with Michael Bisping. I think he's going to get knocked out in round 1. I don't think he's going to be ready for the onslaught at all. I think the tools that he has in his bag, every UFC fighter is trained for those tools forever. I think it's going to be a lot like the Ronda Rousey stepping back. I think it's going to be like Lyoto Machida back in the ring. I think it's going to be depressing, and it's going to make for a lot of sad fans that are so excited for the GSP return. The one thing I hope it does bring is a whole bunch of eyes to see how awesome the UFC is and how many other fighters are in the UFC that are just as exciting to watch, if not way more exciting to watch in the octagon than GSP. That's what I hope it brings. I think Michael Bisping needs to get past this GSP thing. If he's not going to retire, fine. He in the exact same way as Conor McGregor, really needs to legitimize his belt to fight fans, and it's not going to do it fighting Henderson or GSP. It's going to be fighting Robert Whitaker, or maybe even Luke Rockhold again, or something. I don't know how that... It has to be Whitaker. I want to see all these interim belts. I want to see everything unified.
I 100% agree. So... Definitely.
I think you put Bisping everywhere.
Everywhere put Bisping. I am going to have him all over every single Draftkings card.
GSP is going to be backstage. Brendan, I am terrified.
By far the biggest fighter he's ever had.
He should be terrified. By
far the biggest fighter he's ever had.
He should be terrified.
He's essentially fighting 2 weight classes up. That's how big Bisping is. So... definitely remember to follow us.
Yeah, follow us on Twitter at Lesbo and The Bean for all things Lesbo and The Bean. Go to lesboandthebean.com. And really, once again, thank you guys for listening. It's really appreciated. So remember to like and subscribe.
Lesbo and The Bean!